righty, chat, let's get started. Welcome to another Healthy Gamer GG stream. My name is Dr. Alok Kanoja. Just a reminder that although I'm a psychiatrist, nothing we discuss on stream today is intended to be taken as medical advice. Everything is for educational or entertainment purposes only. So if y'all have a medical concern or question, please go see a licensed professional. Happy Monday, everybody. It's nice to see everybody again. It looks like I am streaming on the internets. So look at that. I'm going to just pop out some chat here so we get some goodness. Hi, everybody. So today we're going to be talking to Mizkif. No idea what we're going to be talking about or whatever, but we're going to be starting in about 5 minutes or so. Yeah. So, yeah. How's everybody doing? We doing good, chat? Yeah, so not really sure. Like, we'll just see where the conversation goes, which is usually what happens when Mizkif and I talk. Mizkif is an absolute awesome dude. Strongly recommend y'all check out his stream and whatnot. But how's everybody doing? We're like in May of 2024. It's here, finally. The world still keeps turning. A lot of changes recently in the universe. There was a big Dota patch that dropped. I'm having some fun with it. I found it mentally overwhelming. Yeah, everyone is good. Matt Giro got a girlfriend and feels scared. Dota patch Pog. Great. Absolute ADHD brained maniac. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I'm thinking, oh God, I need to button chat. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so people who are saying girlfriend patch when. Yeah, it's overwhelming. The Dota patch was a little bit overwhelming, to be honest. Like, I was like, this is too much. Have they gone too far? Is this going to be the point at which I stop playing Dota 2 because it's like too much? But no, it's actually the first couple games were overwhelming, and now it's a lot of fun. So, yeah, so someone's asking about, have I done a video on 12-step programs? You know, the big irony is we actually have not done a whole lot of addiction content recently. So there are a couple of like big things that are kind of on our list that we just need to get around to. I'm working on 4 lectures right now. 5. One of them is on why you should be more empathic. One of them is why you should be less empathic. Empathy research is so interesting. Another one we're working on, like, we're understanding better the causes of brain rot. Like, this is crazy, like what's happening to our brains. And it's crazy. So like the tricky thing is a lot of the stuff that we work on is not stuff that has very clear research on. So brain rot is a really good example that people are like investigating in a lot of different ways. But there isn't like a consensus. And the other challenge is that it's like changing very rapidly. So the rate of brain rot and the interventions that are inducing brain rot are changing quite a bit. So working on that. And then, yeah, we've got a couple other good ones in the pipeline. Yeah, give us a small spoiler about brain rot. So just to give y'all like a couple of quick examples of this. So if we look at what's happening to our brains, it's happening on multiple levels. So this is the first thing to understand. So it doesn't have one cause. It has like a lot of different causes. So one thing that's happening is we are increasing our sedentary lifestyle. So as the human body stops moving around for most of the hours of the day, it has profound impacts on our cardiovascular and like endocrine systems. And one thing that's happening is like cerebral blood flow is being altered, inflammatory markers are being increased. So we know that, so there, like some people even discovered that depression is caused by, or is correlated with inflammation in the brain, like a low level of inflammation. So there were even trials to give anti-inflammatory medications like NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medications. Like these are things like ibuprofen. It didn't really show much clinical benefit in depression. But there are some subtypes of depression that are caused by basically like medical illness in the body. like people who have like rheumatoid arthritis flares or things like that. And in some of those trials, NSAIDs can be useful. But basically, we're becoming more sedentary. When we become more sedentary, our cells start getting inflamed. And like, we're not entirely sure why that is, but we know it's true. And so that inflammation travels up to the brain and like causes different kinds of problems. Another really wild study that I saw is the correlation between consuming the same content over and over and over again and reductions in BDNF. So this is like absolutely wild. But brain-derived neurotrophic factor is something that like, so neurotrophic means it builds neurons. So it's like this chemical that is released by cells in our brain to like stimulate growth of neurons and healing. And it's possible that consuming the same content on the internet over and over and over again literally decreases, we're not sure about this, literally decreases like the expression of BDNF. And so like watching content on the internet may like literally reduce the signals in your brain that stimulate like growth and healing. It's really wild. So it's crazy. So there's like all kinds of stuff. Anyway, there's like, we're sorting through it. Maybe we'll get into it with Ms. But before we jump in with our interview with Ms. Kiff, we're going to just talk about the 988 crisis line for a second. So today's stream is sponsored by 988. This is a United States and 5 territory governmental program to create a new line that helps people with whatever kind of crisis they're going to. So a couple of super cool things about this. 988 connects you with a crisis counselor live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for free. And they can provide you with support and connect you with additional resources. So definitely check out the 988 crisis line. We're really grateful that they're, sponsoring today's stream. We're also super happy to collaborate with them because like, oftentimes people in our community are in crisis. And one of the things that we certainly don't provide are crisis resources or support. So we're always happy to collaborate with groups and institutions that sort of supplement where we don't do things. And I know sometimes we'll see this, like people in our community will post, right? Like, hey, I have a friend in crisis. I don't know what to do. A couple of years ago, it was like, how do I get a hold of Dr. K? My friend is in crisis. And I'm not an internet ambulance, but that's what the 988 crisis line is there for. So we're always happy to connect y'all with resources to help y'all through whatever problems assail you. So thanks to 988 for sponsoring today's stream. Let's see if Ms. Kiff is ready. Pop, pop, pop. Pop, pop, pop. Yeah, I mean, it's wild, chat. Like, it's wild. So out of the stuff that I mentioned, though, what are y'all interested in? Like, tell me, like, what y'all want. I will go ahead and ring, and then we will pop out, and then we will decrease this, and then... Did we fix this? Nope, it still says the wrong person. Let me see if I can fix this real quick.
Hey.
Guest. Scoffed.
Me?
There we go. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
Can you count to 10 for me?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Is that good? Okay, perfect. How are you doing, man?
I'm all right. I'm stressed out of my mind, honestly.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Last time I saw you, I think you were fostering dogs.
Yeah, that was also stressing me out of my mind.
Or is that part... Are you done with that task in life?
Yeah, that was a very stressful task. I mean, the dogs are... Do you know who Fandy is?
Vaguely.
Yeah, she took one of the dogs. Some of the dogs went to other homes. They all got adopted at the end of the day.
Cool.
So
Awesome. Good for you, dude.
it was interesting. I mean, it was just that was a lot of work, but it
Yeah.
was a good time.
I think it's people think that, lots of puppies is going to be lots of fun, but it can be super challenging.
Yeah, I didn't think that at all. I knew that they were gonna be it was gonna be terrible work, but I mean it was rewarding because I mean you got to help out. It was nice. The
Yeah.
chat liked it too.
Yeah. Awesome, dude. Yeah, it's cool. It's interesting because I've been to that room a couple of times, but I haven't seen it from like a stream perspective. Because last
What was
couple
the
times I
difference?
think we've just talked in
Was there
person.
really that big of a difference though?
Yeah, because I think I look at different things, right? So I'm usually sitting next to you, and so my angle is different.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's pictures, there's weird stuff over here.
Yeah, that's cool.
Did you
I'm
see that last
sorry.
time?
Is that written on the wall directly?
Yeah, it's because I had to stare at a wall for 12 hours.
Oh my goodness, what was that? What's that about?
I think I owed my chat it, so I stared at a wall for 12 hours, and I just kept writing on the wall because I was going insane. But I do have to say, staring at a wall is actually pretty nice, and it is meditative.
Tell me about
And I
that.
felt better afterwards.
Oh,
Tell you about it? I
yeah.
mean, I don't know what it does, but it was on stream too. And after I was done staring at the wall, I actually felt a lot better. I think I don't know if it's because I was just only using my brain to entertain myself, so I was more you know, engaged with myself and I was just thinking better or clearer.
Hmm.
But it actually worked. I remember feeling like because I know you've said before like oh staring at a wall actually can help you for like an hour.
Yeah.
Um,
I wouldn't recommend 12 at one
Yeah.
stretch, but
I just
yeah.
tried to get it out my ear. You know what's interesting? I actually listened to you a lot, and I even bought a Lutolin.
Okay.
You said because you said that can possibly help with what was it? I think brain rot.
Yeah, so I don't think we usually I don't recall recommending supplements, so your mileage may vary, but I don't
Oh, I really
remember
have brain rot.
luteolin can be helpful. So some studies will show that like that kind of stuff can be helpful. But the challenge with a lot of these studies is that sometimes they'll have small sample sizes, sometimes they're not well controlled. But have you noticed a difference since you started taking it?
No, I think my environment is too tough to really notice a difference. I genuinely just am way too stressed. I'm stressed out of my mind.
Yeah, you mentioned that a couple times. Is that something you want to talk about today?
Yeah, sure. I mean, basically, I feel like I've definitely put on way too much of a workload for myself. I
Okay.
mean, I this is gonna sound really cringe, but I do own like 7 companies, right? And I think instead of me just focusing on my stream and my job, I focus too much on other things, which is also like my companies or my work, and not things I care about. And I thought that it's things I would care about, but it's at the end of the day, that's just really stressful. And I don't know how to manage my stress. Like I try a lot. I go to the gym. I'll do other things, and it helps for sure. But it's not enough. I just get too stressed to the point where I'm like not as entertaining because I'm being stressed. And I don't know what to do.
Okay. Can I think for a second?
Mm.
Okay. So I think I don't know the specifics of your situation. We'll learn a little bit more about that. But I think one thing that may be helpful, and this is kind of, I'll kind of punt to you, is so I've worked with many people who are chronically stressed. And if we look at sort of like, let's pull things out of your specific circumstance and understand, we can get it back into it in a second, but like, let's understand like, how is it that people end up in chronically stressful situations? So it's almost interesting because, sometimes when I work with people like clients or patients, they'll come to me and they'll be like, I'm stressed, everything's falling apart. And then at some point I'll have a conversation with them about, okay, like I can patch you up and send you back into the fray, but at some point we should have a conversation about like why you keep on getting into these situations. Right?
Right.
So sometimes people will come to me, they're like in crisis, we kind of put them back together, and then they continue living their life in the same way, and then things kind of build up. And sometimes what I find is incredibly helpful with people, and I think this happens to like most people, is we're not really aware of the internal drivers that push us to create the situations that we're chronically in. What do you think about that? I realize it was a complex sentence.
Well, you basically said we're not aware of what we're doing sometimes to be stressed in the first place, right?
Absolutely, right? So you're talking about how managing your stress, it sounds like you're doing all the right things, that managing your stress is insufficient. So this is kind of like you're tanking some amount of damage on a daily basis, and then you have some amount of like heal over time shit like that's going on, and that's how you're trying to balance it. But
Right.
if you're heal over time, if working out and doing this and taking luteolin and all this stuff is like, it's insufficient for like the DPS, like then we have to really think about how can we reduce the overall DPS. And oftentimes we don't realize that the situations that we find ourselves in, and I don't want to go too much into detail because we can ask you about that, but and really there's some like principles even from like the discipline of like yoga and like sort of Buddhist thought about how to understand like how our mind works and how we end up, it's almost like a karmic perspective that we kind of reap what we sow, right? So you're saying that I have 7 companies. Fair enough. I don't think that's cringe at all, but I understand why you say that. My question is, how did we get from 0 to 1 and then 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3 and then 4 to 5 and 5 to 6 and 6 to 7? And what was happening in your brain when someone was like, hey, let's do another company? And you were like, sure.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of the idea was, it was. I mean, the hard part for me is like I need motivation for a lot of what I do,
Okay.
and for me, like the motivation is like I do love entertaining, I do love streaming, but I always wanted to have like like kind of mid maxing almost, where it's like, oh well, while I'm doing that, I can promote something that's on my stream at all times, like Starforge or whatever I want to promote. And basically, I could just utilize that while also streaming. So it's like you get, kill 2 birds, almost 3 birds with one stone. And I think that that idea sounds great in your head, but then you realize off stream, you still have to deal with that business all the time. And what I did is I essentially just took on too much stuff over the years, and now I have to do those things. And off stream, which is basically my job, so off my job, I have to do, you know, 700 different calls, going places, trying to figure stuff out. And I don't necessarily mind doing that, and I really don't mind the stress. But my problem with my stress now is it's not making me as entertaining, because when you're stressed, you're just not as funny, or at least for me, I'm not nearly as entertaining, and I want to be as entertaining as possible.
Okay. So what's stressful about your situation right now?
Um, what's stressful about my situation is I just feel like I have no time to breathe. And if the problem with me is if I do have time to breathe, like let's say I'm watching a show or something, I know while watching that show that I could be doing something else that would be beneficial to something else. So to another company or to my business or to my job or to my stream. And that watching TV a lot of times feels like a waste of time, because I could be doing something else. I could be messaging somebody. Because the problem with being entrepreneurial is you can always be doing more. And it's hard to say when that's enough.
Okay, so what I'm noticing, this is kind of wild, but it sounds like your relaxation is stressful.
Yes. Oh, very stressful. Like I'm stressed of relaxing, because when I relax, I'm like, oh my God, I should be, doing something else.
So
So I'm not
now
even enjoying the moments.
now what we've got is a hot that's turned into a dot.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It sucks. Because you're supposed to balance those, that time off uh, with relaxing. But I I just can't do it. I mean, even at the gym, I'll take calls. I'll be texting people about stuff. I'll be checking things. Uh, and honestly, I think the entrepreneurial life is not the best sometimes for me because I just get too hyper obsessed with, well, you could be doing this, you could just be doing a little bit better, and things would be better. And it's just kind of taken a huge toll on me over the years. I don't know. I don't know what to, I wish I could just manage it a little bit better. Like something that, because I know what you can do. You can say to me, hey, here's this, this, and this. Oh, thank you, doc. I feel a lot better. But in, 2 weeks from now, something will happen and I'll be stressed again. And
Well,
I want to figure out how to manage it over
sure,
time more.
we can talk about that. So I'm a bit confused. So when you say I could say, oh, Ms., just do this, 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 and things will be better. What kind of stuff are you imagining I would say that would help for a week or two?
It's almost like you said what you said about patching up. It's like you can just, make me feel decent for like the day, and I'm like, oh, I feel much better. But in 2 weeks from now, I could be stressed again, and then I just want to learn how to manage that
Okay,
part.
so let's start with that. So why is it that something can help in one day? So this is going to be tough, okay? So I'm going to ask you some hard questions. So how is it that something can be helpful for today, but not helpful 2 weeks from now? You said like I could patch you up, right? But then 2 weeks from now, like we're kind of back to square one is the vibe that I'm getting.
Right.
Why?
Yeah. Because I don't know. I mean, I've talked to people about stress and things, and I usually just talking to somebody makes you feel a lot better.
Okay.
Maybe you just let some of your emotions out or your stress itself by just talking through it.
Okay.
But then in 2 weeks from now, when something bad happens or I have to focus on something, uh, it'll just come right back, and
Okay.
I don't know how to manage it.
Okay. Okay. So here's the way that I would kind of conceptualize this. That's a really good point. So let's say like we could crit heal you today, right? So we could do like, we can talk about your emotions, but if we think of, or like whatever's stressing you out, we can offer some compassion. We can offer some peer support, some social capital. Like there's all kinds of things that you can do, like a one dose, like one injection, right? Like we can just inject you with some compassion. But that, like, so I get what you're saying, and I'm just going to kind of repeat it back to you. There's like one-offs, and then there's like the stable level of like stress, right? And one doesn't fix the other. Do you see that? One is like a systemic stress, and one is like an injective relief. So what is it that, how can we possibly fix this day-to-day stress?
I don't know. And what sucks too, Doc, I'll be honest, is even when you're talking, I'm thinking about, oh, I could be doing this, I should be doing that, I should be focusing on this. It's every second of my day is you could be doing something else unless I'm doing something else. And it's debilitating.
Okay. So have there been periods of your time, of your life where you haven't been stressed?
Oh yeah, it was before I did all this. It's before I gave myself this massive workload that I should not have given myself. And I really do think it was also before I was in the entrepreneur business. Like before I was a streamer, before I was trying to make businesses, I almost enjoyed the time of, hey, here's work. You work 9 to 5, you're done. You clock in, you clock out, and you when you're on the weekend, you're saying to yourself, oh well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be relaxing with my family on Saturday and Sunday. So you enjoy those moments. But for someone that's in the entrepreneurial business, if you can always be doing better, and that mindset has just taken complete control over me.
Okay.
And I just feel lost.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I'm kind of getting the vibe of is that you're relentlessly chasing efficiency and doing more.
Yes.
And so here's kind of what I'm wondering is like, if we can understand, because I think this is like driven by you in some ways. Does that make sense?
You cut out right when you said driven.
So this is kind of driven by you in some ways.
Yes.
How
It's
is
all
it,
by me.
How is it driven by you?
because I have such a high standard of making, of myself. Like I want to be the best. I want to make sure everything works.
Where does the high standard come from?
You know what's funny? I don't even know. Because my family was never like that. They were always like, you can chill, you can relax, enjoy your life. My family's very middle class. They were just like, hey, let's focus on the moment, not focus on, businesses. Like, I mean, granted, my parents were very work oriented. They worked all day and they would come home at 9 at night to see me and then go to bed. Um, but they were always telling me like, yeah, try to enjoy your life, try to enjoy the moment. I don't know where this work idea came from, where I just am working so much. I don't know. Maybe it's an insecurity. Maybe I'm just insecure about failure, or I want to be better so I can feel like I have a higher social status than the person next to me. Um, but whatever it is, it's not worth it.
So when we, how do you feel about yourself because doing all this stuff isn't worth it?
Um, I feel I feel like it's not necessarily that I just feel like I wasted my time. Like I feel like I've just, instead of doing like seven different things, I wish I did like two. It's just like, hey, like, calm down, stop trying to do so much, because, and maybe it's FOMO that I got for a while with these things. Um, I don't know. I feel very just upset. I'm just like, dude, did you really just get stressed for 3 years, 4 years straight when you started making these things and doing these things? Because I hate it. Like I'm like, dude, you make all these things, you do all these things so you can enjoy the time off and be, hey, let's watch a TV show. Well, when I'm watching that show the entire time, I'm just thinking to myself, holy fuck, I could be doing anything else that's work oriented to make my, company grow, because streaming is a business, and it's just taken my life.
Can I process for a second?
Hmm.
I think you're sending a lot of good stuff my way. Okay. So it sounds like you're very unsatisfied with yourself for having created this situation.
Yeah.
And what would you like to happen? If I could wave a magic wand and do whatever, I could make we've got some magical genie situation and I could make wishes on your behalf. What would you wish for?
Doc, I would wish that I just stopped caring as much. I wish I would just relax and say, you know what, like, that extra 10% you can be getting from, you know, h- focusing on this so much and hyper, just caring about it so much to the point where you can't even enjoy your life off stream or off, whatever you're doing, is not worth it. And
Okay.
I can enjoy my life. I just want my mind to be cleared.
Okay. And
Like, you know what TMJ is?
yeah,
Like, I got TMJ from all the stress. Like, my
it's
jaw
awful.
cracks. Yeah, it sucks. All day it cracks. My neck cracks really badly. My eyes hurt all the time. It's all from the stress.
Okay. So you wished you stopped caring as much. So what is it that makes that hard for you?
It's the idea that you can always be doing more.
Where does that idea come from?
It could be that I competitiveness with others.
Okay.
Maybe I'm very
Are you
competitive.
competitive with others?
I would say I'm more competitive with others when it comes to, it's trying to be, or like trying to have like a higher status, guess you could say, because it's my, it's kind of my job.
How does it feel when you have when your status improves?
No, you don't feel anything.
Okay. So if your status improves, does your hunger for status increase, decrease, or stay the same?
It stays the same. That's the worst part.
Okay. So how? So let's say like this is gonna be tough. Okay. So let's say like I feel thirsty, right? And then I'm gonna drink some water. And if I tell you, Ms., I feel thirsty, I'm gonna drink some water, and then the water has no impact on my thirst, how would you understand what's going on inside me?
I would have no idea.
Okay. What do you think is the relationship between the water and my thirst?
Well, the water would quench your thirst.
And
but
if
you
it
said
doesn't?
it doesn't do anything.
Okay. Right? So it's kind of weird, right?
Yes.
Okay. Good. So let me just think. How long have you wanted to be better?
My whole life. Of course. I mean, I've always wanted to be better. I've always wanted to be successful. Even when I was a kid, like when I wanted to be the first person to get a job in my grade, so I went to Toys R Us and gave a lady a notepad and said, "Hey, here's my number." Can She's like, "Oh, you're hitting on me?" I'm like, "No, I want a job." And I was like, I think it was when I first got my phone. I was in fourth grade or third grade.
How old were you when you first wanted a job?
Oh, what is third grade? 9.
Okay. Why did you want to be the first person to have a job?
Because I wanted money,
Why did you
and
want money?
mm, I guess it shows. Maybe it's power. Maybe it's the feeling of security. It could be. Uh, I don't know.
Okay. I don't think it's power or security. So I'll tell you why. So you said you wanted to be the first person,
Yep.
right? So the power or the security that you get from money at the age of 9 is relatively fixed, whether you're the first person, the second person, the third person, or the fifth person. Does that make sense?
When you say fix, is that because basically there's not really anything you can get at 9?
No. What I'm saying is that first is important. But like, so if I get if I'm looking for security from a job, whether I'm the first person in my grade to get it or the last person, the only thing that matters is I get the money with the security, right?
Right.
First doesn't enter the equation. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But the fact that you wanted to be the first person tells us that the need is not security or power. And we also have a second clue to that is that sometimes when I ask you questions, you'll say, maybe it's this, I don't know, maybe it's an insecurity. So that tells me that it's not an answer from in here, it's an answer from up here. Right? So it probably true on some level. But like if we pay attention to your words, we'll understand what's important. Why do you want to be the first person? What does that tell you?
That I'm an asshole. That I'm competitive. That I want. I mean, I don't know.
How does it feel to be the first?
I don't know. It
Okay.
it it just felt. Well, I mean, it's hard for me to conceptualize how I felt when I was 9.
Yeah, of course.
I just know I wanted to be someone with a job. I wanted people to say, "Wow, that guy's got a cool job. He works at Toys R Us." I don't even know what I was gonna try to do. I sell gumballs. I had no idea, but I wanted a job badly, and I wanted to work because I wanted to grow my wealth. And stupid as it sounds, I wanted to grow my wealth, make money, so I could become rich one day and relax.
What made it hard to relax when you were 9?
Um, that I felt like I was just wasting my time when I do things. Like if I wasn't, uh, I even when I was like 15, I wanted jobs badly, and I always wanted to work harder and work. And I think I don't know what that drive was. I really wish I could think, but I think it almost could be the same drive I have today because it just never stops.
Does it feel
And
the
it's
same?
funny that that 9-year-old kid of me would have said, "You're good today." Like, hey, relax. You did what you were gonna do. You said you were gonna try to make money, and you did it. But I'm here, and I do want more, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with that.
Okay. So I think we'll be able to maybe understand some of the things that play here. And not just for you, but for anyone who's watching.
Mm.
I and I think there's a lot here. I hate to do this, but we have to take a I have to take a quick break just to talk about 988. Is it okay if we do that right now? Because I don't want to
Yeah.
interrupt things. So I think
No,
I've
you're
got like a pretty good. I've got like a page of stuff that we'll try to stitch together. But before we do that, I want to just talk about 988 real quick. So this is probably something that's like useful for y'all's community as well. But just wanted to give y'all a quick heads up that today's stream is sponsored by 988. So this is something super cool that the United States government put together. That is a crisis line, crisis and suicide lifeline. So it's an emergency services line that y'all can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if you're in the U.S. or the 5 territories. Couple of things to keep in mind that's awesome about this is if y'all are in some kind of crisis, you can call this number and you can speak to a human being who is a trained crisis counselor who can help you through that, actually like help you manage that crisis, connect you with resources. So they deal with anything that I think is basically mental health or crisis related. So if y'all are just concerned about, anything that you're going through, you can just call the 988 number. So you don't, even if you're feeling like overwhelmed or extremely anxious or just looking for someone to talk to, these crisis workers are there on hand, here to listen to your problems. And if you or someone you know is struggling, y'all can always reach out to the 988 Lifeline. And for more info, y'all can check out 988lifeline.org. So thank you to 988 for sponsoring today's stream. Alrighty. So I am curious, what are you taking away so far? Has anything kind of floated to the surface for you?
Nope.
Okay. So let me kind of, I'm just trying to think about, do I want to ask you more questions or? Okay. So you said that your family was like very middle class. And what time would your both of your parents worked?
Yep. All day.
And what was that like for you?
I missed them a lot. I would think about it all the time. I'm like, I wish they were around more. I mean, obviously, when I was a teenager, I said I wish they were around less, right? Like, I just wanted to be alone or in the house. But when I was a kid, I did wish they were around more. But I understood what they're doing. I mean, they were working to support us, to make us have a good life, to put us through college. But I did see what it did to them, and I saw that my parents, yeah, especially my mom, all she cared about was work her whole life. She was a workaholic, and maybe that's where I got it from. And she worked so much that she just missed all of the years. When I was a kid, it was like she was not there for my baseball game. She was not there for anything because my mom was working so much that she would come home at 6:30, 7 o'clock. She'd make dinner. She'd be in bed by like 9, and she'd go, and that's it. So my mom even had 2 jobs at one point because she just liked working. She didn't have to do it; she just wanted to work. So it was kind of. I don't think she. Let me put it this way: she definitely regrets it. I'm sure if I asked her today, "Do you regret working so much?" she would say yes because she missed out on a lot of my pivotal years of my life and my family's.
Did y'all need the money?
No.
How do you
Didn't even
understand? How do you understand why she took a second job if y'all didn't need the money?
I understand that she worked a lot because she wanted to support us and make us have the best life possible. Like she liked that we were, living in a pretty nice house for middle class, I would say. She liked that our colleges were paid for the majority of it, and that's what she worked for was for us. But at the end of the day, I don't. We didn't need that. We would rather have her been there for things. But I think for her, she thought her place was to work.
do you remember what it was like to have baseball games and have your mom not show up?
Honestly, Doc, will be real, no, because I was so focused on trying to make everyone laugh around me that I didn't even pay attention.
Why were you so focused on making everyone laugh?
Because that's what I'm good at, or I was. And when I'm stressed, I fucking suck ass at it. But when I'm not stressed, I'm a funny guy.
Why do you want to be what's the importance of being a funny guy?
I feel like it's what I'm good at. And I've always been really good at it, and it makes when I make someone laugh, like genuinely laugh, it's a euphoric feeling that I've never had in my life. No amount of, no sex, no nothing has ever made me feel better than when I make someone laugh in my life.
What does it feel like when you make someone else laugh?
It feels like I'm successful almost. It makes me feel like I did what I was supposed to do, and I don't know. It's the best feeling I ever had in my life is when someone genuinely in front of me is like, that was fucking funny. Like a witty response, a clever joke, or like something stupid, like I just fall on the ground and someone laughs. I just feel makes me feel happy.
Okay.
Always has. It's all that is all I've ever cared about is making people laugh. But then I also have another side of me. It's like, well, you like business, but the business side stresses me out. So then that other side isn't as funny.
I don't think those are two different sides, but we'll get to that in a second. So when you make someone laugh, how do you feel? Can you describe it at all? Like what goes through you? Like,
It literally feels like I just nutted.
okay.
Like it feels like a godlike feeling I've never experienced in my life that I love having. It's just amazing. It is my favorite feeling.
Who do you become when you make someone laugh?
Who do I become?
Because
I don't know. If I'm really making people laugh and I'm in a good mood, I almost feel euphoric.
yeah, so you feel euphoric, but like I'm kind of pushing for an answer here, but I'll just share my observation. So in my mind, there's two kinds of miskiffs. There's the miskiff who's trying to make people laugh, and the miskiff who makes people laugh. And these seem to be very different human beings to me. Like their internal experience of who they are is like very different.
Mm.
What do you think? Does that resonate with you at all, or not so much?
Yeah, no, I agree. There's the one that's trying to make people laugh is very stressed.
Yep.
The one that does make people laugh is not stressed at all.
So where does that euphoria come from?
I don't know. It's just me feeling like that's my place on earth and I'm good at it. And when I'm making people laugh, I feel like I'm the best at it. But when I'm stressed, I don't feel like I can do it at all. I just feel like I'm closed up and I want to hide in a bunker. I don't want to be around.
Okay. Can I think for a second?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel when people criticize you?
The problem with my brain with ADHD is if someone criticizes me and I resonate with it, I'll think about it a lot. Like I'll just like close my eyes and almost I'll see the image of what someone said about me. Um, it's definitely gotten a little bit easier over the years with criticism. I don't really take it as much because I just I've seen it all, but I do still see it and it hurts. And I hurt it hurts more when the person's being genuine. Like I know when someone's like, "Oh, well, Miz is a loser and boring." Well, like I don't care. But if it's someone that's like, "Yeah, like I watched Miz for 5 years and now he's just not entertaining," yeah, that kills me.
So, would it be fair to say that the way that you feel about yourself is influenced by how other people treat you?
Absolutely, yeah, of course.
How tight is that correlation? Like if you get like, and what about compliments? Like if someone authentically praises you, then how do you feel?
Oh, amazing. Yeah, it's all tied to how people think about me. I'll read, one good thing about me and I'll feel good for a week. But I'll read one bad thing and I'll feel like shit. Or hear one bad thing or see one bad thing. It's I'm very tied to how people think about me, uh, which is it's not good.
What's not good about it?
That I have no confidence in myself with it. Like it's weird. Sometimes I feel like I'm the most confident guy in the world, and sometimes I just feel like I'm a shell of who I once was.
What changed?
Trauma.
Okay, that'll do it.
Yeah, that fucked me up pretty bad.
How long ago?
Was my trauma
Mm-hmm.
a year and a half ago?
Okay. That'll certainly do it. So, and if these 7 companies were successful,
Mm.
how would you feel?
They are successful.
How do you feel?
Nothing.
So, what is it that? Okay, so the success doesn't matter to you, or not? Doesn't matter isn't the right word. It doesn't seem to fulfill you.
Yep, doesn't fulfill me at all.
Okay, and what was in your mind when you started number 7?
That mm, it's interesting. Like each one's kind of different. Like I did make the gym that I have. I really just made it for fun. I didn't make it for profit. Which I don't mind that one. And I don't mind that I made these businesses. They're all successful and doing their own thing. My problem with my businesses is more so I just care too much. Like, and it's not even a care that matters. It's you're getting 5% more. Great, your company's worth 5% more for all the stress you have, but you don't even enjoy your off days. You're just sitting there contemplating what you could be doing better, contemplating this and that. For what? For 5%. That 5% doesn't matter. And I don't mind the work, and I don't mind putting the business in working hard. But what I do mind is I just basically have created this loop of where if I'm watching a TV show, my brain instantly starts thinking, "Hey, do something else. This is not good. This is not smart. Work harder. You should be working. Someone else is going to get better than you. Someone else is going to catch up." And I'm just dying on the inside.
Okay, so so when that voice says that to you, what happens inside you?
I get anxious.
And do you have to listen to the voice?
It's hard not to because the show, I mean, TV shows are, there's a lot of downtime in TV shows where someone's just talking and it's not that interesting. And in those moments, I'm just thinking about everything else. Like, you should be doing this. Maybe you should message this person. And what sucks is sometimes my inner thought during those shows is right. Where I'm like, oh, fuck, I didn't do this. Oh, I could do this. Oh, maybe I should try this thing tomorrow. And it actually helps sometimes. And so what sucks is that 9,999 times, it's not correct and it's annoying. But that one time it is, I'm like, damn, that's a good idea.
Why do you have to pursue good ideas?
To make sure I'm still doing well.
What does that mean, doing well? But you are doing well.
I don't know. To make sure I'm doing the best I possibly can. So when I look back at this when I'm 50 years old and I say, you know what, good job. You know, you worked really hard. But I know when I'm 50 and if I keep working like this, I'm going to say you fucked up more than you possibly ever can imagine because you got to enjoy 0 moments.
What's it like to not do the best you possibly can?
I feel like I'm a failure.
Okay. That's a problem?
Yeah. I just don't like feeling like I'm not doing the best I possibly can because I say to myself, wow, you have insane opportunities that no one else has. And you should be utilizing that opportunity. And I just feel like I'm wasting it sometimes if I'm not trying to be the best because, you know,
How
who
does it
gets that
feel to
opportunity
waste
like I
your
do?
opportunities?
It feels like I'm a failure. I mean, it really does. It really just feels like I'm letting myself down. And that's money. That's a lot of money. You know, it's tough for me to really say it's not a big deal.
And what happens when you don't let yourself down?
Oh, it feels like a 2 out of 10. Like it feels like, oh, okay, well, you did what you're supposed to do. It doesn't feel great. But when you don't do what you're supposed to do, I feel like a 9 out of 10 in stress because I'm like, God fucking damn it, you idiot! Like you fucked up so badly.
So it sounds to me like you're kind of like stuck, right? So on the one hand, you like give in to that voice, you optimize, and even if it's a long shot, that 1 out of 1,000 makes it really important for you to take that shot. And
Yep.
even if you succeed, you're overly stressed. You can't even enjoy your wins. You can't even enjoy your downtime. And if
Yep.
you don't give in to that voice, then you're kind of fucking up. You're not like doing a great job. You're letting all these opportunities go by. So it sounds to me like basically your life is dictated by like the avoidance of one kind of pain on any given day. You're never moving towards something, you're moving away from something. Always.
Yeah. And what sucks about being so stressed is not enjoying those times where you're supposed to be having fun
Mhm.
makes it so, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Like it really does make you worse because yeah, like you're stressed in those moments, you're thinking about your job. So that I'm not enjoying the time I'm supposed to be enjoying, which results in me being more miserable. So it actually always has hurted my job. It's never benefited me being stressed. It's always hurt me. It's not good.
What do you think about this person who is making decisions in your life?
I think this is not who I ever wanted to be.
Who do you want to be?
I want to be an idiot.
What does that mean?
I literally just want to be like, I don't care. I want to be, I used to be so carefree when I was, even in college and stuff. And it's because it's what I said. I think when I was younger, it was just like, hey, you have homework to do. Here's 17 things you can do for homework. And then when you do that, you're done. You can always study a little bit more, yes, but it's not as important.
What is the how does caring manifest within you?
How does caring manifest in me?
How do you know when you care versus you don't care? Like if
When
I
I
was
hyper focus on it, when I think about it a lot.
okay, when you think about it a lot.
Yeah, but I hate thinking. I don't want to think.
Yeah,
Because when I
that's
think,
the
I'm not as entertaining. When I'm not thinking, I'm fun as hell. I'm funny. I'm great. When I'm thinking so much, I'm stressed. I'm pissed.
what causes thinking?
The What causes thinking is it's almost like a checklist that's infinitely going in on my brain, saying, "Hey, you need to do this. You should be doing this. You shouldn't be enjoying yourself. You should be working. You could be doing more. You could be making more money. You could be more successful. You should." And that checklist is an infinite loop that just hasn't turned off in years, and I want it to shut off.
I'm going to
And
read Go
you're
ahead.
gonna read something?
No, go ahead.
No, that's really it.
I'm going to read some stuff to you. So I wanted to be a cool guy. I wanted other people to say he's cool. I want to relax. I want to be the first person who has a job. What do you think
Mm.
about those statements?
Sounds like a douchebag. Or
Why?
sounds like a guy that's gonna be like my mom. You know,
Gonna be like your mom,
is your mom?
right?
Yeah.
So what's it like to be a douchebag?
It sounds. It's not even you're a douchebag. A douchebag is someone that doesn't care. It's usually someone that's just. But this sounds like a workaholic. It sounds like someone that just constantly, like, I want people to say like, "Oh my God, he's so successful," when the truth is, it's like, does that really matter? No.
Okay. So I'm gonna try to draw some stuff out. Okay.
Mm.
How are you feeling about today? By the way,
What do you mean?
like how do you feel about this conversation?
No, I like it. The only problem is I've had this monologue in my head for years where I just am like, stop being so stressed, stop, and then I get stressed about being stressed, and then my eye twitches now. Like I don't know what the fuck's going on with me anymore.
Okay.
I can't. What sucks the most is I just wish I could just enjoy moments. Like I wish I can compartmentalize my life.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's see if this works. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's try to understand this, okay? So, I don't know how exactly we're going to do this. Let's start with your parents. So your parents were, as you put it, workaholics.
Yeah.
And they didn't need to be workaholics, right?
Nope.
So what did they tell you growing up?
They told me to get a job, go to college, work after college, live a normal life.
Okay. What did they show you growing up?
Show me.
What did they model for you?
My dad was much more relaxed and said, just, live life and do what you want. My mom was much more work, 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 put in effort, try to be better. She wasn't necessarily pushy. She wanted me to live a very average life.
Okay.
She wanted me to
What did
go
she
to,
model for you? What did she do?
what did she do? She was an accountant.
No, so I guess this is kind of the point that I'm making. So like I've worked with some people whose parents are alcoholics.
Mm.
And what they tell their kids is don't ever drink. Don't ever drink. Drinking is bad. Drinking will ruin your life. And what do you think those kids end up doing?
Drinking.
Absolutely. Why?
Because fuck you to the man.
Right? So this is really important to understand. As children, we learn what our parents do, not what they say. And furthermore, one of the most confusing things for a child is when your parents tell you to do something and show you to do something else.
Mm.
I'll give you an example. Why the fuck aren't you more confident? You should be confident in yourself. Why can't you stand up for yourself? If a parent says that to a child, what do you think happens in the child?
He becomes a beacon of light of confidence.
Why?
I'm kidding. He becomes insecure.
Why? The parent is telling him.
Because, I don't know, maybe he gets nervous and starts overthinking it, and...
Is he confident?
No.
And where is his lack of confidence coming from?
It could be anything. I mean...
Why the
maybe...
fuck aren't you confident, Miskiff? What the fuck is wrong with you? You should be more confident. Stand up for yourself.
His parent?
Absolutely.
So I should hate my mom.
Nope. We're just starting with your mom. We're going to leave her far behind. This is all you, buddy. So the first thing is, like, I think it's important to understand that we do what our parents model. Like, we use the same language. So I remember when my grandmother, my grandmother had an injury when she was a kid. And so I don't know if you've seen this, like, this is like definitely true in my culture, but I think it's somewhat like universal. Have you ever seen like the old person sigh when they like sit down? They're like, oh. Have you seen that? Like when old people do that, they're like, oh my God, like, oh. So she would sigh. She would do this like old lady grunt every time she would sit down. And it was the funniest damn thing. So when my daughter was like 1 year old or like a year and a half, she started sighing like an old person every time she sat down. And it was like the funniest damn thing. She's like, ah. Oh. She's like this 18-month-old kid who's like sighing like she's been on this earth for 70 years. Mm-hmm. And you just internalize the behaviors, the mannerisms. Like, it's really cute in her. But this is the first thing to understand, right? So you were taught from an early age that like work is more important than everything else. Yeah. Right? So there's some amount of like inheritance of workaholic. Now, some of this may even be genetic. Like, it's very surprising, like, what percentage of this could even be genetic. So we have studies that show, for example, that conscientiousness, which is the ability to, like, move relentlessly towards a goal, is somewhat inherited. There's also neuroticism, which is the tendency to worry, that is also somewhat inherited. So if you look at people who are, like, medical students, they're very high in both of these qualities. Because they're like, they work really hard and they're super worried about if they don't work hard, what's going to happen. So this results in kind of like this situation where like basically they're relentless. They don't feel happy. They just work really hard. They're stressed out all the time. But what both of these things lead to is good outcomes. So these are the kids that wind up in medical school because they worked really hard and they were stressed all the time. So they studied extra hard and they were paranoid. So this is just something of your background, but we're going to kind of steer a little bit away from this, if that's okay with you.
Yep.
So here's the thing. So when I listen to you, what I hear is someone who wants to be, let's say, accepted. So when you make people laugh, this is like a shortcut to acceptance. Does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah.
So this too is very common. I think we've talked about this. This is very common in ADHD. So an ADHD, huh?
Do I have ADHD?
You told me you had ADHD.
No, I have severe ADHD. I have the worst ADHD.
So this is what happens in kids who have ADHD, okay? So what happens is by the second grade, the average kid, I don't know if this is true, but I've seen this statistic, seen this cited in some places, get invited to 0 birthday parties. Do you know why kids with ADHD don't get invited? Did you get invited to birthday parties?
Because we're fucking annoying.
Why are you annoying?
Because we don't shut up.
Okay, right? So when you realize you probably have an above average IQ. Have you ever had your IQ tested?
I don't want to because I bet it's way lower than above average.
I think it's probably not, but fair enough. So this is what happens in kids who have ADHD is like they recognize their deficits. So what happens is so kids are actually really good at judging IQ, and you probably recognized, I mean, I would bet money that when you were growing up, you got frustrated with yourself because you could tell that like you're not stupider than these other kids. That you're just as smart as they are, but you can't do the things that they can do.
Yep,
and then what? Huh?
Yeah, it was so annoying.
And then what you sort of conclude is that like there's something wrong with you. You're kind of screwed up in some way.
Yep.
So there is a dissatisfaction with the self.
Yep.
Okay. And so this is really important. So one antidote to the dissatisfaction is to make other people laugh. Because when you make other people laugh, what?
I'm listening, but yeah, that sounds accurate.
When you make other people laugh, like, where is your mind?
Not there.
Not there, right? Where is there?
A lot of times when I'm trying to be funny, I'm not even in present thought.
Absolutely. So this is really important to understand. The reason this is euphoric is because most of the time you're in your fucking head. And in your head, there's more to do, more to optimize, more to possibly fuck up. And you also have this like director's cut of self-judgment. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
So like you're always thinking about yourself. Like it's not just, there's like a parallel track. There's like, I need to optimize this thing. I need to do this thing for work. But in the back of your mind, all of those things are driven by who you will be if you don't do that. Does that resonate or no? Because I haven't asked you these questions, so this may not be.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Okay. Because I've asked you a couple times, what is the euphoria? And I think you're having difficulty with words, which is fine. So I'm just filling in some of the gaps as I understand them. Okay. So it's kind of like, because like, if you do all this stuff, you won't be you. Right?
Yep.
And when you make other people laugh, you're not you. You're just like vibing with another human being. You're out of your head. You're just kind of existing with them. Y'all are kind of like, you're creating something beautiful. You're creating, but you're not you anymore. Your sense of self actually disappears. And so there's also a correlation between your sense of humor, an inverse correlation. So if we look at the degree of your self-referential thoughts, okay, which I'm going to call stress, or even the activity of mind. And we look at humor. So the more you think, the less funny you become. So we want to go back to here. No thinking. Just vibing. Just hanging out with chat. No pressure. And if we look at the nature of pressure or stress, the nature of pressure or stress is increased thoughts. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
So stress and thoughts go hand in hand. So this too, it's like, what prevents you from enjoying a show and relaxing, Ms. Kiff?
Thoughts.
Absolutely. Right? So you can't even relax because when your mind has idle time, your thoughts increase, your stress increases, you become less funny. So this keeps on, like, this is like a cycle. And then furthermore, we have this issue of like rock and hard place, where if I relax, this is like, I don't even know how to say this. It's kind of like if you relax, then you are inefficient.
Yep.
And if you're efficient, you'll feel better, but this doesn't really work.
Nope.
Right? So if you really look at it, like, it is the fear of inefficiency that keeps you from relaxing. And it is the fear of something else that, like, keeps you going. Like, you always have to work, you have to work, you have to work. Because if you relax, then you're being inefficient. And if you're inefficient, like, you'll turn into something. I don't know what, but you don't want to be that, right? You don't want to be that guy. You want to be the person who has the first job in your class. You want to be the cool guy. You want to be liked. You want to be respected. You want to be valued. Now, the question is, because when you make people laugh, right, you're valued. That's how you know they're laughing. Miz, that was fucking hilarious, bro. You just made my day. That's your poison. That's your addiction.
Yep.
Right? So now the question becomes, why? Why are you so addicted to this? What do you think?
Why am I so addicted to making people laugh? It's weird because I feel like as much as I'm addicted to making people laugh, I'm also addicted to business and growth and money and stuff like that.
Sure.
And that's the stress that
Sure.
is the exact opposite of me being funny and entertaining.
Yes, very good. Right? So those appear to be opposites, but I don't think you're addicted to opposites. I think it's just one thing with two manifestations. So this is what's kind of weird. I think there's something within you that you're unhappy with yourself. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
So this is what's kind of weird. So even your desire for relaxation, this is so hard to string together, but okay, so let's say like version number 1, version 1.0 is not having friends growing up.
But I did have friends growing up.
Okay. That's what it is statistically for most kids with ADHD. So why did you want to be the first kid in your school to get a job?
So I looked cool.
Okay, so looked cool. Now we want to think about, let's understand this because there's a lot in those two words. What kind of kid wants to look cool?
One with insecurities.
Right? So if you want to look cool, does that mean you are cool or are uncool?
You're uncool.
Are uncool. Now here's the crazy thing. Even if you accomplish your goal, will you be cool?
No.
Why not?
Because being cool I feel like it's a mindset more than it is a...
Absolutely. So already, hold on a second, because you're setting yourself up to fail here, right? Because you want to look cool. So this is the problem. You feel you are cool, and even if you accomplish your goal, does it circle back and fix this?
Nope.
Nope. So now I'm drinking water, but I'm still thirsty. Doesn't work. So now we get to maybe version 2.0 at some point. So then you sort of end up becoming a content creator and you make people laugh. And when you make people laugh, do you look cool? No, you don't. Think about it. Are you cool? Absolutely. Do you look cool? Oftentimes you're undignified.
You don't
Right?
think me making people laugh makes people think I'm cool?
I think it makes you cool. I don't think it makes you look cool. I think oftentimes the things that we do when we make others laugh are actually undignified.
What does that undignified mean?
You're like sometimes debasing yourself. I think
Like,
there's a
what is
chadness to it. There's a chadness to it, but sometimes you look like an idiot. When you make people laugh, sometimes you look like an idiot. That's what I would say.
Yeah, but I genuinely enjoy looking like an idiot.
Yeah. So if you are cool, then you can look like an idiot.
Right.
But when you're not cool, you can't look like an idiot.
It's weird though. A lot of times when I'm like really funny, I feel like I'm the coolest because it's like I don't think there's many people that can do that. Like anyone can be successful, anyone can have nice clothes. Not many people can make people laugh.
I agree. But so what happens to your estimation of yourself when you make people laugh?
It goes up.
Absolutely. You value yourself, right? So this is the key thing. Is my screen share working with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
See it?
Right? Because when you say not many people can do that. Now I want you to this is so subtle. But when you say not many people can do that, you're not talking about how it looks. You are talking about the value of it. If I say a diamond is a beautiful thing because it is rare, that is not saying that a diamond is pretty or that people like the way that a diamond looks. That is talking about an intrinsic value of the diamond because of its worth. You are contributing to society when you make people laugh.
Yep.
Looking cool, and there's no first or last. You're not even saying I need to make people laugh more than other people. I need to be the first person. You see, like, all the comparative statements disappear. I know it's like subtle. Maybe it's wrong. But so there's no like first or last, right? You don't give a shit. Like, I'm not hearing you say if you make someone laugh and then someone else makes someone laugh, how do you feel?
I gotta do it again.
Like you gotta one up them?
Not, yeah, kind of, a little bit.
Okay. So I think there's some of that flavor there. Fair enough. But like, I don't know if this makes sense, but when you say not many people can do that, that is a statement of value.
Yeah, not many people can really make someone actually laugh. Most people can get that like, but not many people can be like, wow, that like I'm actually laughing, like.
Right. So when you do that, you feel really good about yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So that's euphoria. That is also like outside of your head. Like it's getting rid of this.
Yep.
And that's like euphoria. Now, there are a couple of other things here, which is like we got to be super careful. So when you are unhappy with yourself, right? So you want to be more. I think that's part of the reason you are a serial entrepreneur. And then also, if you're unhappy with yourself, you need to be better. Yeah. Right? And if you need to be better, you need to be more efficient. Because efficiency is better. Got to hit 3 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah. Or 10.
Or 10. And you're so good that you can even do that. But the problem is that much like this whole water thing, like it doesn't actually fix your problem. And even now, when you've achieved what you set out to achieve, you're unhappy. And this is where things are going to get really subtle. So would you like me to teach you work-life balance, Ms.?
Yes.
Okay. So your desire for work-life balance is a manifestation of this thing. It is the same problem. I need to be better. Ms. needs to be better by starting 1 company, by starting 7 companies. Now I need to be better by getting more work-life balance. It's the same problem. You're not willing to accept or be happy with yourself.
Yeah.
You see that? That's why it doesn't work. Because it's stemming from over here. Now we need work-life balance. And if I get better at work-life balance, then I will be better. It's just another optimization. It's the same fucking thing. This is really important to understand. I could be wrong. But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's completely true.
Right? And so then you're like, okay, I'm going to take luteolin. And I'm going to do this. And I'm going to listen to this. And I'm going to learn this. And I'm going to meditate. And I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do all these things because I am not happy with the person that I am right now. So I'm going to fix it. Not going to work.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Weird. Right? So how do you fix this?
Stop talking to my mom.
Your mom is not to blame for this.
Okay. I'm not sure, honestly.
Do you want to fix it?
I try to fix it. I've done everything you said. I go to the gym.
Yeah, you tried to fix it, right? So those are all work-life balances. Do you want to fix it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You sure?
Yes. This mental state that I'm in is not one that the thing is, it's one thing if I was like very unsuccessful, right? Like, let's say I was like, you know, I just got a free therapy session from you and I was just not doing well, but like, I am in a spot where I should be happy. Like, when I was at my 10-year-old self, I said, dude, if you're ever like this, you should be happy, but I'm here and I'm still wanting more because numbers can always go up. But I know that that's a toxic way to live because numbers can always go up. And you'll never be happy no matter what if you just keep going that route.
Exactly, right? So this is where like we're getting to a point where like so now I mean I think this is going to be really hard, but there's very important things to understand here. So the first is like this is going to happen as long as this is at the root.
Yep.
Now, here's the problem. So we can talk about how to address this. So we're going to I'm going to introduce a couple concepts to you, okay? The first is like activity of the mind. A lot of your moment-to-moment piece, so there's like 2 or 3 different issues here. The first is how can we help you be happy in one day? And then the second is how can we help you maintain that happiness over time? These are like actually like 2 separate issues. So first thing is that the more active your mind is, the less happy you'll be.
Yep.
So what results in an increase in thoughts in the mind? What do you think?
Not being happy with myself.
Okay. Unhappiness, sure. So there's a couple of other things that we're going to learn here. So sensory input. So you said that you stared at a wall for 12 hours.
Yep.
And what happened to you over the course of those 12 hours?
I felt like my mind raced like crazy for about an hour, and then I kind of just was more, I don't know, I just felt like my brain worked. I felt like it was like the cogs were turning.
Okay, good.
Not in a bad way.
Okay, so let's understand this, right? So let's say here's your mind. The more sensory input I get, the more thoughts I create in my mind. Let's say each of these creates a thought.
Is sensory input something like even going on like checking messages and stuff like that?
Absolutely. That is the number one form of sensory input, right? So then what happens is each of these like little things in the mind actually has its own momentum. So I would say it's kind of like these are actually thoughts. This is what happens. It's not just one thought that then disappears. We then play with the thought. So you get an email message, and then what happens is like you're thinking about the email message. Should I do this? Should I do this? Should I do this? So one thought actually becomes many thoughts. And each of these branches off, and each of these branches off. And since you're managing 7 companies, this means that you've got 7 sets of inputs. So your mind is fucking overwhelmed all the time.
Yep.
So this is probably what your thoughts feel like. They don't come and go. They start to spiral and branch, and then they become this.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is what your mind is cluttered with. So what do we do to fix that? When you stare at a wall, you get no input. So what ends up happening is this kind of goes like this, but then it starts to like fizzle, and then it'll eventually stop. So this thought over here starts to slow down. Maybe it picks up a little bit, and then it starts to slow down. And then this one is like going really, really strong for a while, and then it's like, okay, let's slow down. Because if the mind doesn't have any input, it has nothing else to play with.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't like read one book And for like, let's say you read a book, and then at the end, there's a big climax. And you're like, oh my God, that was fucking awesome. You're thinking about it for a little while. You're like, that was great. That was great. It's not like you're happy for the next 40 years filled with excitement because you read one great book. Thoughts in the mind fizzle if they are not fed. What's going on right now is you are feeding your mind so many stressful thoughts that then pile on to this in some way. So this is like your base of operations, and then something about these thoughts will like pile onto them. Does this make sense or not so much? You can yawn.
No,
it's okay.
it's exactly how it is.
Okay. So the first thing that we need to do is recognize that the more time you have this thought input, the worse things are going to be. And furthermore, watching a show doesn't work, because watching a show, here's the show. Let's try to create a relaxing thought. But you have all these mind spirals that are going on, and they keep on interjecting, so you can't relax. Like this one thought is over here, but look at all these like past inputs that are like lingering in the mind.
Or like the show will say something, and I'll be like, fuck, I forgot, or I have to do this, or I should do that. Like,
right? So it's thoughts popping into the mind. And if you have a neurodiverse brain and you have ADHD, this problem is exacerbated.
Wait, neurodiverse, doesn't that mean I'm stupid?
No.
Oh.
It just means that the way that your brain, well, so this is a concept of that has like different sides to it. So some people believe that neurodiversity is a debilitation. I think there's a reasonable argument for that. So you could say that people who are on the autism spectrum and people who have ADHD, for example, are like they have like a negative aspect to their brain. Their brain malfunctions. There's another camp of people that says that their brains are different and that in the current society, it acts as a malfunction, but there is not something fundamentally wrong with the person. I think both approaches are like reasonable.
Mm. I don't really care.
Okay.
For me, I like being stupid. Like my favorite time in my life is when my brain is off and I'm acting like an idiot.
Yes, your brain is off, right? That's the opposite. This is where humor comes in. So humor comes when your brain is like this. Because humor, it's fascinating. You can even look at maybe I'll pull up a paper a little bit later, but you can look at like the neuroscience of humor is absolutely fascinating. How non-logical humor is. You can't think your way into being funny. And in fact, if you dissect a joke, it kills the humor.
Yeah, the key to humor is just confidence in being an idiot.
Well said. Right? And then the question is like, in the brain, where does that come from? Like, who knows? So you want an empty head. You want to be an idiot. Fair enough.
Yeah, because I can. Like, the thing is, that brain you're looking at, the Naruto 7 chakras, that brain is one that it's understandable. I did this. I had to work hard, make a lot of money, and I've had you don't want to miss your opportunities you have for the years you're in. But now I'm like, dude, I'm 30. Like, I've been in this for 6 years now. When am I going to start having that brain again? Because I deserve it. Like, you did your time. You've got the money. You did the things. But now your brain is worse than it was before. And it's because you piled on so much crap.
So
hyper-obsessive growing.
This is not just you, right? So some people may say like, oh, like you were saying, it's cringe to say that you're running 7 companies or whatever. I don't think that this matters. Whether you're a successful person, unsuccessful person, whether you're a serial entrepreneur or you're homeless, like it doesn't matter. As long as your mind is like this, you will be unhappy.
Yes.
Simple.
I know this isn't just correlated with me. I know many people feel the same
way. So now the question becomes, how do we stop this from happening? So this is where we get to a couple of really concrete things that we can think about. The first is, have you ever talked to your mom about being a workaholic?
No.
Okay.
Because she's working.
Huh?
She's too busy working.
There it is again. Right? So now we've decompressed you a little bit and the humor shines through.
Right. Like that's the thing that sucks is I want to just be like an idiot as much as I can.
Yeah. So you want something. I want to be an idiot. What does wanting, when you want to be an idiot, what happens to your, okay, so now I'm going to draw another one, okay? So I know you're not the smartest kid on the block. But so let's say this is being an idiot. So this is being a big idiot. This is being a little idiot. And if I want to be an idiot, what does this do to my capacity for idiocy? Right? So there's two options. One is the more that I want to be an idiot, the stupider I become. The other option is that the more I want to be an idiot, the less of an idiot I become. And then I guess the third option is that there's no correlation.
No, I think the more I'm an idiot, the smarter I am.
The more I'm an idiot, the smarter I am. So what about the wanting to be an idiot? The more you want to be an idiot, does it become easier to be an idiot or harder to become an idiot?
Harder.
Absolutely,
Because
right?
you're thinking.
This is the right answer. So this is what's really weird. As long as you want, not going to work. Idiocy is spontaneous. Right? I mean, all you have to do is play any video game on the internet that is multiplayer, and you will see how, man, these noobs on the internet, they can pull idiocy. They can throw games that are unthrowable. The depth of idiocy on the internet is unparalleled. And they're surely not trying, right? You like to throw that hard and to be that stupid. You can't even try. It's like some brilliance of its own.
Something happened with you? Are you traumatized from like Valorant or something?
Dota, yeah.
Oh.
Well done, Dr. Miskiff. So the first thing, this is just something I encourage people to do. I don't know how this is going to have an impact on anything. I would talk to your mom about being a workaholic.
Okay, I will.
Like, I would just have a conversation with her. I don't think she's bad or anything. I think just asking her, hey, Mom, like, I noticed you worked a lot. Sometimes I got the impression you didn't need to work. What was your experience like growing up? Right? And then you'll be amazed at how much you can learn from, like, her experience. And you may even find that it's almost like talking to yourself. And I think just in general, like, we don't do a great job of, like, connecting with our parents. And like sometimes having a conversation with them about our impression of what our upbringing was like, not to try to blame them and be like, Mom, you never came to my baseball party and like why? Like, I mean, if you want to share that, you can, but I think it's more just like, hey, what was going on inside of you when you were like working so much? And she may say, oh, it's because I needed to do all this stuff for you. And you can like politely push back against that. And I'm like, I'm not sure that you needed to do that much. I'm wondering if there was something else to it. And then if you want to, you can even share with her like what your experience is.
Yeah. Because it's interesting. My dad's much more like the idiot where he just, he worked for sure, but he much more was relaxed and funnier. And my mom was much more of a workaholic, but she was so much more cold, like very cold.
Yeah. So there may be something there. I just think it's like, we don't, a lot of times we think that parenting stops when your children become adults. And I think it's really sad, but I see so many adults that I work with that are scared to have their parents continue parenting. But like parents are here even for this stage of your life, right? When you're 30 and like trying to figure out like what the next 30 years of your life are going to be like. And in having a conversation with them about, hey, you guys said that I should relax. Like I can't. Like, Can you help me with this? So that's the first thing. And unless you're really in a frank, abusive or neglectful relationship, like I think it's really good to like talk to your parents.
Okay. I'll talk to them.
Second thing is when you're relaxing, I would do so without sensory input. So I would because when you're adding new thoughts from the show, it's not going to work. You need to think about your mind as a top, like a top that spins. How do you get a top to stop? Or actually, this is the way you should think about it. Forget about the top. Think about your mind as a pool that has like a pool of water that has a lot of ripples. Okay? So I'll tell you a story. So a student once went to their Zen master and they said, Master, so the fucking A, I kind of fucked up the story, but whatever. So the student comes to the master and the master says that I need you to get this like water to stop having ripples. And so what the student does is a bad story. I butchered it already. But what the student does tries to push the waves down. He tries to push the ripples down. They like try to get it to stay still. They try to get it to stay still. They try to get it to stay still. But if I try to push the ripples down in a pool of water, what's going to happen?
It's going to be worse.
Absolutely. So what's the right way to get a pool of water to be still?
Get Russell out of the pool. don't don't. I mean, obviously have nothing going on.
Yeah, right. So you need stillness. And like your mind craves stillness. Even if we talk about your experience of euphoria, what is it? It's stillness in the mind. Even when we see that genuine humor start to peek through for you, even in this conversation, there's moments of stillness. Yeah. Right? It's like even when you make a joke, you leave this conversation and you go to an oasis. Does that make sense?
I do.
Like I notice it. Like I notice he's gone. He's in a different place. And sometimes that may be frustrating to people. I wouldn't discourage you from doing that. I think go to your oasis. And that's what humor is. It feels like an oasis. And all of this mess, what we're going to do is we're just going to take one chunk and we're going to make one chunk of your mind disappear. And now there's one area that is protected. This is what a joke is in the middle of a conversation.
Yep.
So when you're relaxing, don't do anything. And notice that when you're relaxing, there is going to be a torrent of mental activity. Now we get to the hard part, which is inaction. The other thing that you need to learn how to do is stop acting. So there's going to be 1,000 different messages in your mind of like things you can do in ways that you can optimize. You need at least some time in the day. Let's say this is your whole day. Some time in the day to not act. This is going to be very hard for you. Can you imagine why?
Because my mind's overacting because I have ADHD.
That's one. There's even a harder reason.
Because I put so much work and effort.
Yeah, good. Getting closer, right? So this is going to be the cost of inaction. If you are not active, it's going to cost you a lot. Do you understand what I mean? Or not really?
I'm not active, it's going to cost me a lot.
Right?
No.
So why do you need to be efficient? Why do you need to be working all the time? You can be doing more.
Yeah. To try to be successful and try to...
So what does it cost you to not act? You're going to be doing less. Can you do less?
I could. I know I could.
What makes it hard for you to do less?
I am almost, I feel like, addicted to what I do.
Very good. We're going to get to that in a second. So when you say you are addicted, or let's get to it now, what is the nature of that addiction? How do you know you're addicted? What does that addiction look like?
I'm constantly thinking about it nonstop every second of the day, checking messages, thinking that there's messages, thinking there's something I need to do. It's just taken over my entire life.
It hasn't taken over your entire life. It's taken over one very specific part of your life. Which part?
My brain?
Absolutely. Your mind.
My mind or piece, yeah.
Right? That's the only part it's taken over. And then the mind runs the rest of the show. So this is really tricky to understand, but like you have a mental habit. This is something called a vasana.
Yeah, I do have a mental habit, yeah.
Right? So you have this habituation of, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. And be prepared for this, because if you stop doing that, your mind will scream at you. It'll say, but this could go wrong, and you hit these 10 birds with one stone. Throw the stone, bro. The efficiency is so worth it. You need to act. You need to act. You need to act. And what is it being driven by? It is being driven by this. Because if you don't act, you will be unhappy with yourself. But you're unhappy with yourself no matter what. Even when you try to fix the unhappiness in yourself, it doesn't get happier.
Yep.
Doesn't work. The way to fix the unhappiness in yourself is not to solve your problems. It is to short circuit it. That's what happens when you make a joke. No more unhappiness. It gets unplugged. Do you understand the difference? Chasing after something is not going to work. If it would have worked, you would be happy by now. So this is going to be hard for you, Miskiff, because when you move towards inaction, your mind will rebel. It will be like an addiction. You will go through withdrawals.
Yeah, I can see that. I've had a feeling when I've like for like a day I don't do anything like that, and I get very antsy and angry and stressed.
Right? So just like any withdrawal process, the discomfort rises, and then over time it'll fall. This is what you have to do. You have to do this. Otherwise, you're going to keep doing what you're doing. Right? So you have to like set aside the time for work. And this becomes all very much more difficult with ADHD because there's problems with impulse control. There's problems with emotional regulation. There's all kinds of intersections for why people with ADHD become workaholics. So there's like, I guess let's just go through those. So here is a quick rundown of why people with ADHD actually become workaholics. And we think about as ADHD as something that is debilitating, but I have seen people with ADHD who are incredibly successful. And the reason is because their ADHD makes them vulnerable to being a workaholic. The first thing is that they're impulsive. And if you look at someone who's a workaholic, a workaholic is someone who's working 24 hours a day, which means that when you have an idea at 7:08 p.m., on a Sunday evening, oh shit, let me send an email.
Yep.
You do it.
Yep.
Whereas neurotypical people will be like, it's my day off. The thing is, the world rewards you for this. Holy shit, this guy is sending emails at 7:08 on a Sunday. Right? Issue number one. Second thing, emotionally dysregulated. Which means that as you feel unhappy with yourself, so this is important to understand, unhappiness from a neuroscientific and evolutionary perspective is a source of motivation. So the more unhappy that you feel with yourself, the more action you will take, right? That's why our body makes us feel unhappy. I don't like feeling hunger. Anytime the body punishes you, it is to induce action. Hunger and thirst will cause human beings to kill each other. Lust is a dissatisfaction, can even induce things like sexual assault. Right? So unhappiness is a very powerful motivator for action. And what we see in people with ADHD is that their limbic system is prone to experience a lot of activities. This is their emotional circuit of the brain. So there's an emotional dysregulation, and then those emotions can really drive drastic behavior. The third thing that's really interesting is we haven't really talked about this, but there's also a paradoxical hyperfocus. So we haven't talked about this, but I'm curious, right? So when it comes to being an entrepreneur, I would guess that there are periods of time where you can really grind.
Yeah.
Right? And so then what happens is like there's no balance, but over here during your rest time, you have this intrusive, impulsive thought to do a little bit more work. But by the way, you woke up at 7 a.m. on Sunday and worked until 5 p.m. anyway. So this can induce, like, you can have intense periods of work, but then you don't get a break.
Yeah.
So all of this stuff can really result in, like, actually being a workaholic. And then the other thing that's correlated with workaholic is that you do have a dopamine sensitivity. So sometimes some of the rewards from work will really like hit you way better. Actually, we see this. Actually, you have a great example of this. 999 times, it's a waste of effort. But one time, it's amazing.
That's amazing.
Do you know what that same part of your brain makes you vulnerable to one kind of addiction? Do you know what it is? Particularly vulnerable. What's the addiction that people have where 999 times out of 1,000 they fail, but the one success out of 1,000 gets them to keep going? Can you guess?
Childbirth.
Huh?
Gambling.
Childbirth. That's good. Okay, gambling, absolutely. Right? So, childbirth. So that's what that is.
Mm.
So this is really important to understand. When people are dopamine sensitive, they are impervious to negative consequences. This is what dopamine sensitivity does. It causes us to not think about the negative and makes us vulnerable to like lopsided views of the positive, and results in things like gambling addiction. Spot on.
Right.
So when you have this set of things, you're very likely to be a workaholic. It actually can work out really well. Which is why sometimes people with ADHD are very, very successful. And this is also where there's like a lot of like, you know, there's a growing movement in parts of academia, but primarily in like the social media space, to stop viewing ADHD as an illness, because some people have discovered this.
Oh,
But
yeah, it's not an illness. I mean, it could be the worst thing in the world for you, but it could be the best thing. If you can manifest and make ADHD work, it's amazing.
Yeah, so I think people see this. And so a lot of people, when we see these people in like our community too, you'll have people who are like programmers at places like Google and stuff who have really bad ADHD, but man, can they be like coding fiends.
Yeah,
I've worked, it's like, it's crazy how much you can accomplish.
It's just people with ADHD are told that they can't do anything, but they can.
Yeah, so I think there's also like your mileage may vary. I've worked with plenty of patients with ADHD who don't seem to have some of these advantages, and for whom it can be quite debilitating and crippling. But I think that there's a spectrum, which is why it's not one way or the other. But I think going back to this, I think you've got to be super careful about your addiction. So recognize that you have a mental habit, and the mental habit means that your mind will reflexively do some of these things. The main mental habit to really watch out for is, this is the most important thing, the desire to fix yourself. This is really important. Because your brain will tell you, like, if we do this, we will be better. If we do this, we will be better. If we do this, we will be better. And in wanting to be better, you are actually reinforcing your unhappiness. Can you connect those two dots, or does it not make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense, because it's
How?
the Naruto lines. You're just, like, it ties into everything with the gambling. It's like, yeah, well, 999 times it won't be right, but you'll get that one time, you'll say, oh, wow, I did it. But you'll just think about those other 99, you'll do it again, and your brain will just, you'll have 4 bad days in a row of stress and anger, but that 1 second in the shower where you had a good idea, you're like, wow, this was worth it, but it's not. It's never worth it.
Okay, great. Like, I think articulating that is very important, but recognize that, right? So you're going to have that mental habit of always thinking about the upside.
Right.
So there's another aspect of this, which I think is that, see, when you're unhappy with yourself and you do something to improve your life, it reinforces the idea that the current version of you is unacceptable. Okay, so like if I'm unhappy with the way that I look and I get Botox, what does that do to my self-esteem?
It doesn't do anything. I feel like it kind of makes you worse.
Absolutely, and we see that, right? Once you get on the cosmetic surgery train, like, it's hard to get off. And so this is what's really crazy, is like what you really need to learn, Ms., is acceptance of who you are. You don't need to be better. And this is going to be very difficult, because this is very deep-rooted. Goes from when you were a kid, goes to, I want to be the first. What does first mean? That is a relative thing. It is you're right, it's an insecurity. It's this idea that I am not good enough the way that I am right now. That's why you need to be the first person with a job. That's why 6 companies is not enough. 7 companies is not enough. But the whole problem is that none of those things is just like Botox. You do it and you do it and you do it, but the underlying thing that makes you unhappy with yourself is not getting fixed. And 15 companies won't fix it. Your company's being worth $1 billion or $1 trillion won't be enough to fix it.
Well, maybe, but yeah, no.
Maybe. Right? So this is where it's going to be hard. I want you to be like mentally prepared that when you stop doing as much work, your mind will rebel and it'll beat you up.
Yep.
It'll be like, and so this is where, like, I know it sounds kind of weird, but like, you got to ask yourself in that moment, like, would an idiot do this? An idiot would not go out and do all of these things. So you need to, like, that's that self-acceptance. I think your path is going to be through being an idiot.
Yeah.
An idiot is idle.
Yeah.
But it'll come at a...
It's funny. I feel much more, you know, I feel when I'm being an idiot and being fun, it's like that. Yeah, like that person is much more liked in any circumstance with friends or people in general. Like the money and the power and the businesses and all that stuff. It does absolutely nothing. The people like more is an idiot. They like someone that's more fun to hang out with than someone that's
Who do
more.
you like? I don't care what other people like. Who do you like more?
Oh, I like the idiot. I mean, I just genuinely have more fun.
So choose yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And some of that involves self-acceptance. And if you can get a couple of these foundations, like the main thing, Ms., is I like the way that I see your life right now, you have the reason it's so overwhelming is because you have so much momentum. All you need to stop doing is feeding the beast. You don't actually need to fix anything. You just need to stop fucking it up.
So should I just stop? Like, what can I do to have those like sensory moments where I just like staring at a wall type stuff?
So I think this is like there's a personal aspect to this, right? So this is like a general principle that applies to all workaholics. Now, the specifics for you, so I'd start with a conversation with your mom. I think you take walks, right? We've talked about
I do. I take walks every night.
And how do you feel about those walks?
I usually feel kind of better, but those walks do make me think a lot because it's silence.
Yeah, so make you think a lot is okay. So remember that your solution to stop thinking is to let yourself think a lot for a very long time without external stimulation. Don't give in to the thoughts. So if you think, I need to send this email, I need to do this, 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 just let those thoughts come and go. Your mind will remind you. It's keeping track of everything. You don't need to remember.
Breathing exercise I should do?
Would you do them?
Well, let's say like my brain's really racing. Like, oh, I should do this. I should do this. Like, fuck, I didn't do this. I'm an idiot for not doing. Should I just like? Is there like a breathing exercise I should do in that moment?
Let me think. So there are absolutely breathing exercises you can do in the moment. What I am scared of is that if we teach you a breathing exercise, it will be something that allows us to patch you up and send you back into battle, as opposed to really addressing this at the root. Do you understand the difference? I'm not saying we're not going to teach it to you. So it's fine. We can teach you that. But this needs to change on a fundamental level. It can't change just through breathing exercises.
Yep.
Breathing exercises can help. And in that, I would teach you something very simple called Nadi Shuddhi, which I can teach you now if you want.
Yep.
Okay, so sit up straight, back straight, neck straight. Is your butt perpendicular to the ground? Are you like leaning?
I was.
Yeah, you got to sit up. There we go. Okay. Take your hand. Fold these two fingers. Yep, down. Good. So take your thumb. Block this nostril. Breathe in. Now we're going to do a little bit of a twist. No. Fold the fingers, fold the fingers. Yeah, there you go. Breathe out. Breathe in again. Twist. Breathe out. In. Switch. Out. Okay, now you do one round and I'll follow you. So breathe in. What comes next? Good. And then out. And then what comes next? Got to breathe in again. And then out. Good. And then breathe in again. Switch. Out. Okay, we're going to pause for a second. So can you walk me through what the right sequence is?
Yeah, it's breathe in.
Good.
You do this with your fingers.
Yeah.
Breathe in. Switch.
Yeah.
Breathe out.
Good.
Breathe in. Switch. Breathe out.
Okay, so you always switch with a full breath of a full lung of air.
Yep.
Okay. So now we're going to ask you to close your eyes, and you're going to do it on your own for about 3 minutes. And everyone is going to do it with you.
Okay.
Okay? Actually, do you find it distracting? Is it harder to close your eyes? So you try closing your eyes, see if it makes it harder or easier. Okay? And you can keep going. I'll keep track of time, okay? Neck straight. You're doing great. Got about 1 minute left. Try to slow down the breathing a little bit. Fill up your lungs all the way. Slow down the exhalation. Make it nice and slow. Feel your body slowly sink in. Good. So when you're done with that last exhalation, you can go ahead and relax.
You do this stuff because it makes you think about that instead of thinking about other things.
Partially. You're correct. Very insightful. Right? So the thing about some of these meditative breathing exercises is that if they're too easy, they become boring. And if they become boring, what happens to the mind, Ms. Giff? Very good. So what I want you to focus on is keeping your posture perfect. No tilting head to the side. Right? So stay upright. You can have a slight upturn of your neck. And try to move only the muscles that you're moving and move nothing else. The more intensely concentrative we make the practice, the easier it will be for you. The second thing is some people with ADHD find that half-lidded gaze, like this, is actually easier than fully eyes open or eyes closed. So there's some evidence that people with ADHD, in the complete absence of sensory stimuli, their brain will try to self-stimulate. So this is why sometimes white noise machines will help people focus or listening to music or fall asleep, because something about some mild amount of sensory input will actually calm your mind down, because your mind has something to kind of, it's like in the complete absence of something, your mind will generate all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So eyes open while meditation is sometimes easier for people with ADHD. What was that practice like for you?
This,
Yeah.
it was nice. Yeah, I usually when I do, oh god, when I do breathing exercises, it's usually only for like 30 seconds. I never did it for 3 minutes. It actually was way better.
Yeah. So 3 minutes, and then there's more stuff that I can teach you the next time we meet in person.
Mm.
But this is a good place to start.
Yeah. I'll call my mom.
Do you want to just kind of summarize for us like what you're taking away from today's conversation, if anything?
I learned I learned that a lot of my problems could be rooted through either genetics or from what I learned from my parents, because my parents told me not to do it, but when you see your parents doing it, it makes you do it, which was me being a workaholic. And I need to do things that are not trying to be less stimulated, because when you try, that's going to make you more stimulated, which is kind of similar to the idea of your parents, where it's like being told, hey, don't try to do something, but the thing is, what you need to do is just not try to think, which uh you know like trying to distract yourself with TV shows and stuff is not the smartest route. And thing is, it's an addiction, and what I need to do to beat that addiction is to just not do it, um because it's going to be really hard. But that's really hard, which uh it's going to be for at least a while, I have to beat it, which
Yeah.
can take a long time.
So I would think about your mind. So stress is increased thoughts in the mind. This
Yeah.
is number one thing to understand. So the more active your mind is, the more stressed you will be. And even if we look at some of these things like flow state is not parallel tracks of mind. The problem is that you always have more than one track. That will be the nature of stress. I can't even focus on my work because I'm so stressed about my work. Oh my God, what's going to happen?
Yeah,
I can't be with my partner because I'm worried. What do they think? What do they think? So, and the main thing for you is letting your mind run out of steam. That's very important. And when you engage with it, you teach it how to get more steam from you.
Yeah.
Right? And then this is where that gambling thing comes in, where like even once in a while, it'll, it doesn't have to always work, but like all you need to give it is an excuse where sometimes it works, and then it's going to demand it from you all the time.
Yeah.
So I'd say just let your mind run out of as much steam as you can. That's what you need to do. And this is a fancy way of slowing down. The problem is that it's going to feel hard to slow down, and you're even trying to induce relaxation. You're like, let me watch a TV show to relax. Not going to work. And I think you're not screwed. I don't believe that. I think that the patterns, the mental patterns that you have gotten you to where you are. So one really interesting simple solution in life is if you keep doing something and you find the same result, like do something else. So in your case, the last thing that I would be super careful about is you seem to act a lot to avoid some negativity. So if I don't act right now, then I'm going to feel inefficient. But if you do act, then you're going to have too much on your plate and you're going to be stressed out.
Yeah.
So you have to take a loss like somewhere in there, but it's not a real loss. It'll be a loss. It'll feel like a loss in here because your mind is attached. I want to be better. I want to be successful. I want to be cool. I want to be respected. But you are all those things, and it's not working.
True.
Thoughts, questions before we wrap up? Feels like we're at a good stopping point, to me anyway.
No, I think it just helped a lot, as always. I think I'm going to call my mom and go from there.
Sounds
And I'll
great,
do those
man.
deep breathing exercises, and I will, because I do think TV shows are not the way to go, because I'm just thinking about the fact that I should be relaxing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would even say, I know it sounds kind of weird, but try less hard to relax, right? And you can even accept that today you're not going to relax, but you're not going to work,
Yeah. Just don't overwork. Yeah, it's
right?
an addiction. Yep.
Cool. Any questions before we wrap up?
I got nothing.
All right, man. Look at that. What's going on in your head? You seem very tired.
Oh, well, that meditation kind of knocked me out.
Good. That's what it's for.
Yeah.
Go take a nap, bro.
I can't. I gotta go live.
Ah, look at that.
Yep.
There it is. There's the addiction.
Yep. It doesn't stop.
Okay, so we'll see. So we're gonna talk to your mom. You're gonna go live, and then we'll see what happens tonight. So hopefully you'll get some time to rest.
I will. And I have time off, and I'm gonna relax, and I'm not gonna. Yeah. I think I know what to do.
Awesome, dude. Good luck, and best of luck with your stream today, man.
Thank you, Doc.
Take care, buddy. Bye. All righty. So, Miz has to go live. Fair enough. Do y'all understand what we talked about? Yes? Okay. So, do y'all have questions? Let's take questions for 10 or 15 minutes. Okay. Why? What shampoo do you use? Okay, here's a good one. How do I differentiate if what I have is ADHD or just laziness? So this is really common, where people are like, do I have ADHD or am I just lazy? So let's start by understanding that laziness is not a thing. I know this may sound very, very, very controversial. You mean like, what do you mean laziness is not a thing? That is precisely what I mean. Laziness is not a thing. It is an emergent property, right? It's something like a family. So a family is an abstract concept. What does it mean to be a family? Right? So you can't biopsy someone and find a family. A family is a unit of people that are maybe genetically related, but what if someone is adopted? Well, then it's not genetic relations. It's people who live together. Oh, so roommates are family? No. A family is a family. We all know what a family is, but it can't be defined. It is not one thing. It is a constellation of different things. So laziness in that way is a constellation of different things. Laziness is the lazy person's way of describing laziness. So just to run through a couple of the different things that contribute to laziness. On the one hand, we have the 5-factor model of personality, which is breaks down human personality traits into 5 dimensions. One of them is conscientiousness. People who have a high trait conscientiousness are willing to work hard for delayed gratification. So we think, oh, if you have low conscientiousness, that means you're lazy. But in addition to personality characteristics, we also have these things called our frontal lobes. So our frontal lobes are things that restrain impulses, or will overcome impulses and allow us to stay focused on a task. So is laziness frontal lobe function? Well, laziness sometimes means a lack of motivation. Where does motivation come from? Well, it turns out that motivation comes from our emotional circuits of the brain. These are a different part of the brain from frontal lobes. What else is laziness? Well, this person goes to the gym every day. I don't go to the gym every day. That means that they're not lazy and I am lazy. Well, hold on a second. If we're talking about doing something every day, that's not frontal lobes and that's not emotion. That's habit. This is the endocannabinoid circuitry of the brain. This is a completely different part. Laziness is not a thing. It is a lazy person's way of describing a lot of complex things. And so if you have ADHD, are you going to be lazy? Oftentimes people will say, yes, I am lazy. That is a feature of ADHD, but which part of ADHD? So it is very common that people with ADHD believe they're lazy. Why do they believe they're lazy? Because for them to do a certain amount of work, it takes 10 times as much effort. Someone else can sit down and study a textbook for 45 minutes. I remember this growing up, where I was in the 7th grade, and I realized one day I need to study. And I didn't know how to study because I had never needed to study. So it's like, what is studying? It's reading a textbook, right? So I opened up a textbook and I started reading. And in my mind, it took me 45 minutes to read one page. I was like, well, shit, this is hard. So when it takes you a very large amount of effort to do a small amount of work, is that laziness? Because all I did today was read 3 pages. That makes me lazy, right? So, oftentimes, we think we are lazy when we have ADHD. It doesn't mean that we are lazy. Laziness is a complicated subject that has a lot of different drivers. And when we made the guide to ADHD and doing stuff, that's what we talked about. We talk about how to do stuff. What is it that goes into human beings doing things? It's more complicated than that. This even gets worse because oftentimes what happens is we have an adaptive laziness if we have ADHD. So what starts to happen is we look at our lives and we say, I can't do what other people can do. I can't sit down and read a textbook. I have difficulty getting motivated because my emotional circuitry is not regulated properly. I have difficulty restraining my impulses, which means that when I have an impulse to play a video game, I'll play a video game, and then I'll play it for 5 hours because I don't have impulse control. And then what did I do today? I didn't do anything except for play video games. Therefore, I'm lazy. And then there is a further problem because we adopt an identity of laziness. It makes so much sense. I'm just lazy. It's not complicated. I'm just fucking lazy. Once we internalize the idea of laziness, that creates even its own set of problems because I'm not going to do this. Why? Because I'm lazy. Oh, people who excel, they're not lazy. I can't start a company. I can't write a book. I can't make a video game. I'm lazy. And so then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because now you add identity into the picture. Whole different part of the brain. Now we're talking about the anterior cingulate and the posterior cingulate cortex, the default mode network, a sense of who I am. So even if you are lazy, fair enough, doesn't mean you have to be. You can change. Your sense of identity can change because that's all it is. It's a sense of identity. You can think all kinds of things about yourself. Doesn't make them true. Right? Tell that to a narcissist. I'm the best thing on the planet. Just because someone thinks something about themselves doesn't make it true, and that's true of laziness as well. But you'll say, but Dr. K, I have all this evidence. Yeah, narcissists have evidence that they're the best thing. My mommy told me that I'm the bestest boy in the world, and any girl would be so lucky to have me. My mommy told me so. There's evidence. So, take a step back. Even if you think you're lazy, so be it. I still describe myself as lazy. You can still be incredibly productive. This is the last thing I'll say. You don't have to have laziness define your productivity. I consider myself lazy. I'm incredibly productive. I know a lot of people who consider themselves lazy. They're very productive. You don't have to let it define you. The question is how. How do lazy people become productive? And I think it's maybe Bill Gates who said something like, if you want something done very efficiently, give it to a lazy person. Don't give it to a hard-working person. I may have misattributed the quote and butchered the quote slightly, but it's a really interesting concept, right? And if we look at it, laziness is actually a feature of evolution. What is laziness? Laziness is energy conservation. And if you look at the animal kingdom, animals don't do things that are unnecessary. If you have something like a pet cat and a pet dog, they'll sit around on their ass and become absolute chonkers if you give them the chance. It's a feature of life, the conservation of energy. Okay? So it's okay to view yourself as lazy. It can be absolutely be related to ADHD, but just because you have ADHD doesn't make you lazy. And it doesn't have to define your future. You can work on all of those dimensions, right? So focus on, if you're feeling lazy, motivation goes a long way. A good amount of rest goes a long way. Not putting yourself into an insulin-induced coma goes a long way. Strengthening your frontal lobes through meditation goes a long way. Surrounding yourself with the right environmental stimulation to create excitement goes an incredibly long way. Building a habit goes an incredibly long way. The biggest tragedy in ADHD is that we know there are all these deficits in the brain: frontal lobe deficits, emotional regulation deficits. The one part of the brain that appears to have no deficits in ADHD is our endocannabinoid habit circuitry. Once someone develops a habit, that habit remains intact. It is untouched by ADHD. The real tragedy here is that developing a habit requires consistent action, and that is what is difficult for ADHD. The one part of your brain that can be your saving grace is very difficult to turn on. But once it's on, it works just the same. So if you can force yourself to do something for a period of 2 weeks, then the habit will be built, and then you'll be okay. Right? This is why people with ADHD who start to develop a habit of using calendars or timers do incredibly well. If you look at evidence-based studies of psychotherapy for ADHD, they're just as effective as stimulant medication. Think about that for a second. We can give you a stimulant medication that literally boosts your frontal lobe's capacity to regulate things and focus. And you can get the same yield out of psychotherapy. How? Does psychotherapy induce stimulants in your brain? No. They teach compensatory mechanisms that utilize the parts of your brain that are intact so that the effect of the ADHD doesn't actually work. It doesn't make it through your protective mechanisms. It's like you have damage reduction. Is cannabis bad for ADHD? Probably. Great question. Hey, Jake and Bake. Good to see you, buddy. Okay, I'm glad that today's stream was helpful, dude. It's great to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. I've really enjoyed our chats. Okay, Nefarious Gandhi has a great question. How do I know if I'm making a good choice in quitting something that isn't working for me versus giving up too soon because something is hard? I'm trying to decide if I should quit a job I started 3 months ago. This is a great question. How do you know if you are giving up too soon or if it's the right time to quit, right? Are you throwing in the towel? Like, when should you persevere and when is it dumb to keep going? So there are a couple of important concepts here, okay? The first is there is no such thing as a good choice. How am I supposed to know? Like, I can't see the future. You can't see the future. So the first thing, if you're stuck between figuring out, should I keep doing it or should I quit? The first thing you should do is abandon the idea of a right answer. There's two choices. You don't know which one is going to be right. So recognize that no matter what you choose, there's a chance that you'll regret it, and there's a chance that you won't. So the main thing to do is anytime you make a choice, accept that this could be the wrong choice, and also that you are going to learn from it no matter what. Right? It's just like if you're playing a video game, you're like, I don't know what the right build for this character is. Well, give it a shot. It's not about this time. It is about the future times. Second thing to consider, there are a few different things that keep your mind from seeing things clearly. So how do you make the best choice? I don't know if it's a good one or a bad one. We can't say that. But how can you set yourself up to make the best choice? There are 2 or 3 things that you need to do. The first is recognize how active your ego is. So ego is going to make comparisons, pump yourself up or pump yourself down, and pump other people up or pump them down. So in this situation, let's say you're thinking about something isn't working for me. Is it not working for you because it is working for someone else better? Are you making a comparative analysis? Right? We're like, oh, I don't know if like I should do, like, I'll give you all just a simple example, right? So like when I was doing psychiatry, or when I was thinking about choosing psychiatry as my medical profession, people told me you're too smart to be a psychiatrist because psychiatry is not as competitive as like plastic surgery. They're like, you'd be wasted in psychiatry. You should do a more competitive field. And I would look at some of my colleagues and stuff like that, and people would be like, yeah, like that person can do psych because they're not very smart. So the moment that I stopped paying attention to what other people are doing, that's when I figured out the right answer. Forget about what other people are doing. Make the right answer for you. And anytime your mind is making comparisons, oh, I shouldn't ask that person out because they're talking to my friend and my friend is so much more attractive than they are, so I shouldn't ask them out. Not the right way to operate. Don't make comparisons. You can learn from other people, absolutely. You can observe things outside you and learn from them, that's fine. But to say, I should not do something because this person is better at it, or I should do something because I am better than these other people, that's not going to lead to good decision-making over time. So watch out for the presence of ego. Second thing is watch out for the presence of emotion. And when I say watch out for the presence of emotion, I mean one of two things. The first is, are you being driven by an emotion? And contrary to what a lot of people may say, they may say, if you're being driven by emotion, don't listen to it. I disagree. Emotions are evolutionary features. We paid a lot of evolutionary price to have emotions. We gave up things like armor, like turtles, and the ability to swim. We've traded so much. We're like chimpanzees and gorillas can tear us apart. What do we have as an advantage over them? We have this. Emotions are sources of information and motivation. So if your emotions are motivating you in a particular direction, pay attention to that. The other thing about the presence of emotion is if you are making a decision that is not emotional, you need to be very careful. Look under the surface for emotion. One of the best things that emotion loves to do is masquerade as logic. Take a look at any internet argument, or take a look at any political argument, and you will see emotion masquerading as analysis. So if you are making a cold, dispassionate analysis that does not involve emotion, you're missing the presence of emotion. We see this a lot because our society is becoming increasingly alexithymic, which means we are colorblind to our internal emotional state. Okay? So pay attention to emotion. The last thing is how to incorporate emotion properly. Acknowledge what a particular emotion is telling you and what it is motivating you to do. You don't have to listen to it reflexively, but you should not ignore it. It should be a part of the puzzle. So in my case, I felt emotionally ashamed of becoming a psychiatrist because that's what people did to me. They judged me. Even my mom, who is a doctor, was like, I mean, not her fault, but in the Indian culture, psychiatry is not as respected as other professions. She's like, are you sure you want to do that? She was absolutely supportive in the end. But there was this reflexive judgment. And so I felt ashamed. And so that's fine. So I just mentally prepared myself for, okay, if I walk this path, people will make fun of me. People will call me not a real doctor. Is that worth what I'm getting? Absolutely. Because when I think through that, it's like, hold on a second. So some random people want to judge me. Wait a second. Let me think about this. Do I want to spend 80 hours a week doing something so that other people will judge me well? Like, what the fuck? That's a bad trade. I want to suffer this for 80 hours a week so that when I meet someone at a birthday party and they ask me what I do and I say, oh, I'm a trauma surgeon. They're like, wow. That must be intense. Oh, look at that ego. Oh, yeah, for those 5 minutes that I get to impress this stranger, I'm going to spend 80 hours a week learning surgery? I don't think so. So recognize that you have emotions. Recognize what is the information that your emotion is telling you. and recognize what the motivation is, and then integrate everything and make the best choice that you can. And recognize at the very end that while you can make the best choice that you can't necessarily make a good choice. There's just the choice that you can choose to make in this moment. And unfortunately, you can't see the future. There is no map hack. There is no FAQ for life. So recognize that you could make a mistake. Okay. Okay, how do you begin the process of being unhappy with yourself after stopping the behavior, like trying to be successful, that you're using to close the gap on your unhappiness? This is really good. So, the basic problem is that a lot of times when we feel unhappy with ourselves, we will engage in behaviors that actually reinforce our unhappiness. Okay, so I'll give you a simple example. So let's say that I'm unhappy with my appearance and I decide to get some kind of minor cosmetic surgery. So since I'm unhappy with a part of myself, I'm going to do something to fix it. Because we think that fixing our problems is the way to happiness. The problem is that frequently, when I do something to fix the problem, I'm actually reinforcing the insecurity. I'm not actually digesting the insecurity. I'm doing something to bypass it. If I feel ashamed of myself because I'm poor and I become rich, I can still carry the shame with me. And this is why people will get addicted to plastic surgery. You'll see this in clinical pathological manifestations. This can result in things like anorexia nervosa or body dysmorphia. I'm unhappy with myself. Let me fix something on the outside to fix something on the inside. Doesn't quite work like that. So how do you become happy when you are unhappy on the inside? There are a couple of things to understand. The first is that tolerance of unhappiness with equanimity will lead to happiness over time. So all you have to do is tolerate the unhappiness without overly reacting or underreacting to it. Underreacting means numbing it out. Overreacting to it means pushing really hard to fix the problem. Okay? So what we want to do is just tolerate those feelings of unhappiness. So be it. Now, this may confuse a lot of people because, Dr. K, are you saying that you shouldn't fix your problems? No, I'm not saying you shouldn't fix your problems. This is the key thing. Then I'm confused. What should I do? Very simple. You fixing the problems in your life should be independent of your self-worth. I'll give you all a simple example. Very difficult one. If I am lonely and I want a significant other, if I want a romantic relationship, I should absolutely pursue a romantic relationship. But whether I am a loser or I have value as a human being should not be tied to whether I can find a romantic relationship. That is what I'm saying. A problem should be fixed because it is a problem. But just because a problem exists or doesn't exist should not tie to your personal value. Do y'all understand that? This is very important. Because a lot of times people get confused because they think I'm making contradictions. I'm not making contradictions. At least I don't think they are. Maybe I'm just an idiot. Who knows? Right? So once again, when I say that, what happens? I notice, oh man, maybe I'm making a mistake. Maybe I'm a dumbass. And I smile. Why? Because my self-worth is not tied to my intelligence. I've been such a fucking idiot in my life. And I learned to live with it. And now people think I'm smart. Lol, what? Have you guys seen me play video games? Right? So your sense of self can be independent of your accomplishments from everything, anything external in life. And in fact, the more that you chase those external things, the more vulnerable your sense of self becomes. Oh, I feel like a loser, so let me make a lot of money. Well, hold on a second. Now I made a lot of money. I'm no longer a loser. But what's happened? Oh, no. Now I can't lose the money. I can't lose my job because if I lose my job, then I will become a loser again. If I lose my money, I can't spend any of my money because then I won't have money and then I'll be a loser again. So what have you done? You've actually reinforced the insecurity by tying your value to your net worth. You made the problem worse. And this is what's really confusing. A lot of people think like, oh, if I had a bunch of money, like, I'd be fine. But it's like Biggie Smalls said, mo money, mo problems. Really weird, right? He was on to something. I hope I got that reference right. It's been a while. And during my teenage years, I didn't listen to rap music. I played StarCraft. Okay? Does that make sense? Beautiful questions. Okay. So we're going to answer 2 more. All right. How to stay positive in this process of changing myself? I get discouraged. So a lot of times when we try to change and improve our lives, we face some amount of discouragement, right? It's like, because if you think about like, planting a garden, like the gap between all the work that you do and actually like getting fruit or vegetables out of your garden, there's a big gap where you're investing a lot of stuff and you're not seeing any return. So it's very difficult to not get discouraged when we're focused on self-improvement. So there are a couple of different things we can do about this. The first is recognize that discouragement is part of the process, right? So there's going to be time. Just accept that for 6 months, like it's going to take a little while. Now, this is a very powerful technique for a few reasons. The first is that once we accept that there is going to be discouragement, discouragement is less discouraging. So once we recognize like, oh, like it's going to be a few months before things happen, then just give yourself some time. So then what you've done, the other thing that's really important is that when you accept discouragement, you are divorcing your motivation from an outcome. So let's say that I'm going to the gym to get my sexy beach bod. If I'm going to the gym to get my sexy beach bod, and then I'm waiting for my sexy beach bod, and 1 month in, I don't have a sexy beach bod, I'm going to look at myself and I'm going to get discouraged. And I'm going to say, it's not working. And then we give up. So one of the biggest reasons that we tend to give up in life is because things don't work. And so one of the weirdest things that you can do if you're focused on follow through and perseverance is stop expecting things to work. And then you may say, but Dr. K, hold on a second. If I don't want things to work, then how the hell am I supposed to get up in the morning and do them? Exactly. What we want is your motivation and action to be independent of the results. Because if they are dependent on the results, then your results determine your actions. Oh, I really want to be, I'm tired of being alone. I'm going to try to make some friends, but these people didn't call me back. So I'm going to stop trying to make friends. Now you're stuck. Because now the world, here's the real problem with this. Think about this. When the outside results determine your motivations, who gets to decide whether you are motivated or not? The world does. I really like this person. I want them to go out with me. I feel ashamed of myself. But if they say yes, then I will feel great. Now suddenly you've given this person power over you. Stop giving the world power over you. If you want to take control of your life, if you want to persevere, if you want to follow through, you can't let the outcomes of your actions dictate your motivation. It needs to be independent of that. And then you may say, but hold on a second, Dr. K, then how do I get motivated? Take pride in action. Even if you didn't get your beach bod, can you feel proud of yourself for going to the gym today? Absolutely. Right? If you make some effort, you can say, hey, I did the right thing today. And if you're not careful, your mental habit will arise. It's not enough. You should have started earlier. It won't be enough. And think about what your mind is doing in this moment. This is why it's hard to stay positive when things don't go your way. It's not just, the problem isn't just when things don't go your way. The problem is if you really pay attention, you'll find that when things do go your way, your mind will turn it into discouragement. What the fuck? I went to the gym for 1 week. Man, I really should have started 4 years ago. I can't believe I'm so dumb. And now I'm going to beat myself up for going to the gym for a week? Like, pay attention to what your mind is doing and be like, no, 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 no. This is a win. We're not going to turn it into an L. Right? This is like how you tilt in real life. You tilt in real life when you beat yourself up for doing the right thing. It's like, what the fuck? And then now we're worried, like now we understand why we are dependent on results for our motivation. Because when we are beating ourselves up for doing the right thing internally, then we require the outside world to send us motivation. Because in here, it's like all messed up. But the solution is not, no. It's kind of like, if you're trying to like climb ranks, like you want to play the game the way it's supposed to be played instead of making some crappy strategy that works at low rank and then like be dependent on that strategy for climbing. You don't want to do that. You want to play the game the right way. So don't rely on the external world to determine your motivation, because then you're SOL. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay, hold on. Okay, so there's a lot of good stuff here. Strats for self-compassion. Absolutely. So let's understand, if you're struggling with self-compassion, there are a couple of things that propagate difficulty with self-compassion. So we are taught self-compassion through being taught compassion. Okay, so if people are compassionate towards us, we will learn how to be compassionate towards ourselves. So if you look at something like psychotherapy, oftentimes what happens, and sometimes people will post about this, right? I'm not a psychotherapist for the internet, but if you look at what happens in psychotherapy, we train people to think in a different way. So when a therapist exhibits compassion towards you when you're beating yourself up, when they do that for a while, then you will learn how to internalize that dialogue. And if we understand why people don't know self-compassion, that is because they were not treated with compassion. So if you look at victims of abuse, they beat themselves up all the time. And the question is why? And it's because they were treated like crap, so they internalize that, right? So when the whole world tells me that I'm a piece of shit, I'm going to start telling myself that I'm a piece of shit. When the whole world calls the sky blue, I'm going to call it blue. And they say this is up and this is down, I'm going to do the same thing. So the first strat for self-compassion is to get compassion from outside of yourself. Strat number 1. And then you will say, but Dr. K, I can't do that. Yeah, like that's one of the problems, right? So if we want to look at what the honest answer to a lot of these questions are, not everything within a human being can be fixed by itself as the easiest way. That's not fair. Well, like, look at how human beings evolved. We evolved as community organisms. So this is very important to understand. There is one organ of the mind that requires things outside of you to be healthy. And that is the mind. Heart, I don't need anything from anybody else. Right? My kidneys don't need anything. I mean, I need water. So I guess you can call that things outside. But the mind is the one organ that exists in relation to other people. So if you look at the neuroscience of human emotion, what we discover is that human emotions can be divided into 2 parts. One is primitive emotions that literally comes from a different part of our brain called the amygdala. This is where anxiety and fear comes from, anger comes from, and animals have that too. Even reptiles have that. And then we have something called our social emotions, guilt, shame, pride. Those are emotions that require a relation to exist. I feel ashamed because of what people see. So literally, some of our emotions can't exist without an outside person. So if you look at mental healthiness, it requires other people. That's why what we're seeing is a rise in the loneliness epidemic and a rise in all of the other mental crap associated with it. Okay? So the first place to learn compassion is outside of yourself. Find people who are compassionate. A therapist is a great place to start. Good friends are also really good. What we also find is that people who know self-compassion oftentimes have supportive caregivers. Second thing to consider, if you want to learn self-compassion, you can also be compassionate towards other people. So if you look at, I can pull up a study real quick. Hold on. You guys okay just chilling for a second because I'm going to find a study. I'll show y'all cool literature. People don't realize this, but it's going to take me a little while, okay? Okay, no, it's here. Great. Give me a second, chat. So let's look at this paper real quick. This is a great paper. If you guys want to see this. Whew. Can't believe I found it on the first attempt. So is empathy good for the self? Okay, so within non-clinical populations, there are many studies demonstrating the associations between empathy-related traits and behaviors and good mental and physical health. These studies cover traits such as empathy, compassion, altruism, narcissism, and generativity, and behaviors such as giving support to others, volunteering for nonprofit organizations, and caring for animals. So this is really important. I got to find this thing about volunteer for nonprofits. Not here. Okay. There are actually similar results when examining how empathy-related behaviors are associated with psychological and physical health. This is cool. It is difficult to randomly assign people to regularly volunteer for nonprofit organizations, although in recent years, some scholars have done just that. Yet there is consistent evidence that people who regularly volunteer for nonprofit organizations have better psychological and physical health, even when considering for a variety of confounds. Importantly, a recent study found that in order to receive health benefit of volunteering, people had to be motivated by care for others. Those who were motivated by potential ways they could personally benefit from volunteering, such as learning something new or feeling good, did not experience a later benefit. Okay? Let me show you all this. So several correlational studies found that giving social support to others is associated with better mental and physical health. People who are randomly assigned to such diverse behaviors such as caring for animals or plants, giving money to others, random acts of kindness, or giving massages to infants all experienced increased psychological well-being and better physiological outcomes, such as lower stress hormones. Okay? So, like, literally, this is crazy. If you have trouble with self-compassion, because these psychological outcomes that they're talking about include things like low self-esteem. Do good things for other people. I'm not saying this because it'll help you get into heaven, right? I don't know what's going to get you into heaven. Not my cup of tea. But compassion towards others will improve your mental health. And here's the crazy thing. If you're volunteering because it'll look good on your resume, the effect isn't there. You have to want to give something to someone else. So the second way that you can learn self-compassion is by being compassionate to others. Then you will learn the modes of it, and then you can implement it in your own life. Okay? The third thing that you can do to learn self-compassion is there's a whole branch of meditation called metta meditation, or I like to do meditations that are from the anahat or heart chakra. So there are some meditations that you can kind of do that are just all about governing self-compassion and compassion towards other things. So then there's also transcendent compassion. This is super cool. So there's some like transcendent experiences that you can have through things like psychedelics or meditation, where the ultimate compassion is to recognize that you are one with the universe. Now we leave science behind. Enough science. So the crazy thing happens. Once you realize that the barrier between yourself and other people is broken down, so in psychedelic experiences, we see this. In actually psychotic experiences, we see this as well, but in a negative way. Once I believe that I am connected to another human being and that we're all part of one cosmic organism, it doesn't have to be bound by physicality. We're all part of one society, let's call it that. Or we're all one family unit, or we're all one marriage. Right? Like, we're actually part of the same thing. Even scientifically, we know that. You can logically understand that. Although in some transcendent experiences, your understanding of it blooms way beyond that. Then compassion becomes very easy. But at that point, it's no longer compassion. You can ultimately get to what I would call transcendent compassion. Compassion is me feeling something for you. But transcendent compassion is not me feeling something for you. Me and you disappear. It is just kindness all around. So I'll give you a simple example. When I don't burn my hand on a stove, when I take care of my body and I don't injure myself, am I even being compassionate? No, it becomes automatic. I take care, like I don't like smack my hand around because the hand is part of me. Why would I hurt it? It is dumb to hurt it. Something has to be pathologically wrong for me to hurt myself. And once you realize that you are connected with other people, you will be compassionate towards them. Other people will look at you and they'll say, oh my God, this person is so compassionate. It's not actually compassion. I'm just looking out for myself. You understand? It's weird, really weird. Some studies allude to that kind of thing. Okay? You're not nice to your hand because it's part of you. And once you realize that other people are part of you too, we're all in this game together in some way, even in a logical way without some kind of transcendental experience. We're all in this game together. Okay. Should we do one or two more? This is fun. Let me find another question. Is anxiety an emotion? Yes. Did I talk to Mr. Kiff? Yes, I did. I don't know about supplements for ADHD, man. Like, that's the kind of thing, like someone's asking Shilajit versus Tonkat Ali for health benefits for someone with ADHD who is already on Vyvanse. That's something you should talk to your doctor about. Okay. Can I recommend some books for self-help or meditation? So, if y'all are looking for books on self-help or meditation, I would say read something by people at least once. I know it's kind of a weird answer, but like read one thing by Eckhart Tolle, read one thing by Alan Watts, read like the Bhagavad Gita, like read one thing by Osho. Read one thing and just see if you like their vibe. And then we'll go from there. Okay, so this is a great question. I have ADHD and sometimes my brain shuts down when I have lots of ideas formulating in my head creatively, and I feel like I get stuck at a wall and just my brain stops working sometimes, but I still have a desire to complete all my tasks. So, this is going to sound kind of weird. See, your brain shutting down is like an adaptation. So when our brain gets mentally overwhelmed, we shut down. So we see that there's like shutting down mechanisms even when it comes to trauma. So anytime there is excessive emotion or excessive pain in our body, literally our brain will shut down and will trigger something called dissociation. So shutting down is a way of compensating with overactive mind. So now people say that this is a problem, but I think this is the first step to the solution. So instead of trying to prevent the shutdown, what happens when you shut down? There's nothing. Great. Now, the biggest mistake that you can make when your mind is empty is to try to complete all of your tasks. But when your mind is empty, do one. Just one. Right? So one task, second task, third task, fourth task, fifth task, boom, empty. And then we oftentimes feel, and this is very hard to do because we feel cognitively exhausted. That's why we can't do anything. It feels like we can't do anything. So start one thing. So if you have ADHD, there's one thing important to remember. This is a generalization. Is that your mind doesn't need a lot of stimulation to get going again. That's the problem. Right? So if we look at having 1,000 tasks and getting excited about them and shutting down, why does that happen? It's because I'm focusing on task number 1 and my mind gets excited about number 2 and then number 3 and then number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Get so much energy and then it's too much. This integer has gone beyond the space, or the number has gone beyond, then there's some kind of exception. I forget what it's called. We've overloaded our RAM, so we're triggering a restart. So now the cool thing is you don't have to want to do anything. Start to do one task and recognize that your mind will get excited about something. If it's empty, it'll get excited about whatever you put in there. The second thing that you really need to do is let go of your desire to complete all the tasks. So we're so vulnerable to desire if we have ADHD. So vulnerable. So one of the best things that we need to learn how to do is don't worry about completing all the tasks. Think about that, right? So I have a desire to complete all my tasks. There's 2 mistakes you're making there. The first is you have a desire to complete. The desire to complete is very difficult to get you started. The desire to get started is the right desire. Let me get started. Let me see how far I can go. Because what happens when you have a desire to complete a task? Your mind says, oh, I'm not going to be able to complete it now, and the goal is completion, not starting. So if I can't complete it now, let me do it tomorrow. The desire to complete a task hamstrings your ability to start it. And then the second thing is we want to complete all the tasks. Now think what you're doing. You're making things exponentially difficult for your mind because now you can't just complete one, you have to complete them all. And of course, I get it. I have a desire to complete all the tasks too. I want to clean. I want to pay my bills. I want to write another book. I want to play a video game. I want to do this. I want to learn the piano. I want to work out today. I want to do this. I want to do so many things. Oh my God, I have so many things to do. And it's too much. So if you get mentally overwhelmed, start something, get some kind of sensory input, and then your mind will restart. And then step away. Anytime your mind tries to finish something, don't worry about finishing it. Worry about starting it. Now, this is another problem for ADHD. This solution doesn't work great because oftentimes people with ADHD are okay at starting things, but they're not good at finishing them. So I have 1,000 half-complete things. And why is that? It's because of this principle of the impulse is enough to get me started. So then the main thing that we need to do is don't worry about finishing. What you need to worry about is not starting something else. The energy of the mind will naturally progress on that task as long as it does not get distracted. So oftentimes people with ADHD will try to force follow through. Don't force follow through. Force not starting. So now I go complete reverse and I say now the challenge is to not start. Right? So this is kind of the way that I would put it. See, when I'm sitting down and I'm trying to study, let's say, and I get distracted, what really screws me is if I start something else. If my mind wanders for 5 minutes, that's fine. The problem is in that 5-minute wandering, if I let my mind latch onto something else, then I'm in trouble. Because now it's latched onto, oh, now I've opened up something on my phone. And now I go down the rabbit hole. A 5-minute distraction becomes a 4-hour cost. right? So this is important. So let yourself unplug, totally fine. Give yourself an impulse to do one thing, and then do your best to, when your mind wanders, let it wander and let it come back. Don't let it wander to something. It's fine if it wanders away. Don't let it wander to. Very subtle but important difference. Let it wander, and then when it gets bored of wandering, if you don't let it settle down somewhere else, it'll come back home. Okay? All right. Okay. Let me look at more. Oh my God. I need to scroll faster, chat. Okay. How do you practice it? So, this is where like meditation comes in, okay? But you guys don't have to meditate. If you want to meditate, you can meditate. But let's understand this. How do you practice this skill? So when we meditate, sometimes people get confused because the more you get distracted in meditation, the better you're going to be at meditating. So let's understand this. If I'm focusing on my breath and my mind wanders away, when I bring it back, this is literally like doing a rep. It's like doing a push-up. So the more that my mind wanders, the more I'm exerting energy to bring it back. That's my frontal lobes forming strong neuronal connections with other parts of my brain and literally practicing focus. So in my experience as a clinician working with people with ADHD, they get very discouraged because when they try to meditate, it's hard. But the beautiful thing is those who stick with it get really good at it really fast. See, if meditating is easy for you, it's like going to the gym and doing 5 push-ups. If meditation is hard for you, it's like going to the gym and doing 500. One will actually make you stronger way faster, which is why meditation has been shown in so many clinical trials to be beneficial for ADHD, because you're doing reps, you're bringing it back, bringing it back, bringing it back. There's other things that you can do as well. The general principle is that whatever you get distracted from, don't allow yourself to do anything else, right? So if I'm trying to read a book, what I would say is craft an environment. Turn off your phone, stick it in your bag, take your laptop, put it away, have the book in front of you and mentally prepare. Look at the clock. For 15 minutes, we're going to just struggle with reading this page. That's what we're doing for 15 minutes. Your mind will wander. So be it. Bring it back as soon as you can. It'll wander again. So be it. Bring it back as soon as you can. And the goal is not to read the page. This is where people with ADHD get tripped up because they view this as a failure. The goal is to avoid doing anything else. Force yourself to be in that room for about 15 minutes. Okay? How does a beginner get into meditation for mindfulness and focus? So we have a bunch of videos on that for our YouTube channel. We just had one that went up a couple days ago. That's Dr. K's take on meditation. We also have a guide to meditation, which you all can check out. But yeah. So Doubting Soul 2 says, Dr. K, I'm a mixed person who never felt like belonging. Sometimes I feel like I am nothing and that no one in the world will ever be able to understand me. No need to say that I feel very lonely. What can I do? So the first thing that you can do is recognize that you are not alone in feeling that way here. Because what are we? I want y'all to understand something. So we are misfits to society. My dad was a misfit. I'm a misfit, right? I've always been a misfit. So I was like, okay in school. I was in like a couple of advanced classes, but I was never at the top of my class. I was like not one of the popular kids. I wasn't a jock, but I wasn't one of the mega nerds. I wasn't one of the emo kids who got drunk or high every day. And then I went to college and I was in a fraternity, but I played a lot of StarCraft and it was like, eh. And then I went to med school and I kind of worked hard, but I was one of the 4 people out of a class of like 200 that decided to do psychiatry. Then I wound up at Harvard and all that good stuff. And there are all these like Chad people who are trying to change the world and doing these gigantic research studies and being very successful. And I wasn't one of them. So I started streaming on Twitch. So this is a place for misfits. And the truth of the matter is that in society and in the history of humanity, there have always been people who don't fit in. The problem is that once we stop fitting in, we can internalize an identity of being a misfit. And what I mean by that, I know I said that we're all misfits, but there's a way to fit as a misfit. Right? You can say, hey, there's the regular people, and then there's the rest of us. There's even a unity in that. The problem is that when you are such a misfit that you realize there's being an objective misfit, which is that I don't clearly fit into the world, fair enough. And then there's being a subjective misfit. I don't belong. You may not belong over there, fair enough. You may not belong over there, fair enough. And then you can arrive at a conclusion, I don't belong anywhere, incorrect. Fair, logical, but wrong. Where you belong is with the rest of us who don't belong. And there are a lot of things that we have to be very careful about. Because once we start believing that, we will interpret social interactions in that way. If I feel like I don't belong, I will become hypersensitive to signs of rejection. So if you look at people who have social anxiety, this is a very big problem. And what propagates their social anxiety is they look at the world and they say, these people objectively do this to me. That's fair enough. You're not wrong that some of them do that. The problem is that your brain filters out all of the positive stimuli. Right? So this is what's really interesting. I did a lecture some time ago that it's really interesting. So one of the antidotes to loneliness is solitude. Sounds really weird, but it's true. Studies. Solitude is the desire for loneliness, desire to be alone. And you may wonder, well, hold on a second. How on earth does that help? So it's not about spending time with people or not spending time with people. This is the way that I want y'all to, this is the way that I understand it. So if I'm alone all day long, and I feel lonely for 16 hours a day, then I'm lonely 100% of the time. If I desire solitude for 2 hours a day, or 4 hours a day, let's say, what that means is that now, for 12 hours of the day, the rest of the world rejects me, but for 4 hours of the day, I'm okay. And so psychologically this is a gross oversimplification, but psychologically what starts to happen is that in scenario number 1, I'm rejected by the world 100% of the time. And in scenario number 2, I'm rejected by the world for 75% of the time. This has a huge psychological impact. Being lonely 16 hours a day all day versus being lonely for 3/4 of the day. Gigantic impact. So spend time with yourself if you are lonely. And you may say, but I do that all the time. No, you don't. You are forced to do that. It's not something that you choose. There is a huge difference between solitude and loneliness. Human choice matters a lot. It's the same difference as getting fired and quitting. Right? And if we want to be a little bit crass, there is a kink called BDSM, and we know that consent with that stuff makes the world of difference. Do y'all see what I mean? Willingness is the world of difference. Consent is the world of difference. Y'all understand? So oddly enough, spend some time with yourself. Because here's the other cool thing that happens. So maybe that was a mistake. See, when you spend time with yourself, you will feel better about yourself. Now, if you have enforced time with yourself, this is psychologically damaging. So if we look at studies of female bullies, their tools are ostracization and isolation, incredibly psychologically damaging. So enforced isolation is very bad. Incidentally, this is why parents get a lot of friction when they try to take away their kids' video game. The parents don't understand that they're not just taking away a game, they're not taking away a source of entertainment, they are taking away community. They are isolating you. Very psychologically damaging. The tricky thing, though, is that when you spend time with yourself, shame and guilt require other people to exist. Right? So you can't feel guilty without doing something to someone. You can't feel ashamed without being seen by someone as doing something bad. So for me, for example, like when I went to India and I spent 3 months there, like something really interesting happened. I felt terrible for the first 2 weeks, the worst I've ever felt in my life psychologically. So depressed, in such despair. And then all of these like things, I'm a loser, I'm behind, nothing's working for me, I'm a failure, like all this kind of stuff. But in that world, all of that disappeared once I got used to it. I go to class, I meditate, I do yoga, I go for a walk, I eat the same damn food every day. And so as you spend time with yourself, you will discover you. And the problem is that when you're with other people, you spend time with the version of you that they see, that they create. Your inferiorities become amplified by their superiorities. If you were alone on a desert island, you wouldn't feel inferior. So interestingly enough, spending more time with yourself to heal some of those self-esteem problems, right? And if you really look at psychotherapy, this is really interesting. So if you look at psychotherapy, psychotherapy is not spending time with your therapist. Psychotherapy is your therapist's bringing the deeper you out. Who you actually spend time with is yourself. You spend time with the vulnerable parts of yourself. You spend time with the parts of yourself that are hidden away. And that has a very healing effect. Okay? All right. We're at time for the day, y'all. And we're going to definitely raid. So is Mizkif streaming? Let's raid Mizkif if he's streaming. So thank you all very much for coming today. Let's raid Miz. There we go. He's playing Rust. Oh my God, dude. What is going on with everyone playing Rust? All right, so let's raid Miz. Huge shout out to Miz and his community for showing up today. And we'll end stream on the YouTube side in just a hot second. But we're going to send this over. Okay. And then for those of y'all on YouTube, thank you so much for coming today. We've got streams, I think, I don't think we're streaming tomorrow, but we've got streams, yep, on, we're streaming on Wednesday with Sapnap. So thanks y'all for coming today. Take care, everybody. Hopefully we learned something. And happy